can't remember it myself. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
I'm going to be fine with your jokes, but I'm not sure about Dark Brandon.
Hello. How's everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Oh my god, there's like a million wires. Ugh. Okay, cool. That didn't freeze my camera. Cool. Let's do the intro really quickly, shall we? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, politics, and current events. And sometimes play video games every once in a while. Not as often lately, just because I haven't really gotten done with all the topics. But hey, it happens sometimes. But anyway, how's everyone doing? It's Monday. There are always, I was gonna say there's always stuff going on, but honestly, Mondays is always kind of the slow day. But it is what it is. It is what it is. My real question for anybody out there is, did you catch the finals of the G1 Climax 33? Oh boy. I actually got really, really fucking lucky because I didn't get spoiled like I usually do. So I had no idea who the finals were. I didn't even know who won blocks because I just wasn't able to keep up with the tournament this year. Like every single year, literally something comes up, or I try to watch an entire G1 and it just, it just falls apart. It just falls apart every time I try to, I'll get through maybe the first like 2 or 3 nights. By the way, I am a piece of shit. I don't watch the tags in the beginning. I just watch the block matches. I'm not going to watch the entire show for all the tags and everything else. I don't have that many hours to dedicate to pro wrestling, but I make it through maybe the first 2. I think, what did we watch? We maybe watched the first 2 or 3 nights of block matches, and then had to go to work for, Saturday and Friday and Saturday, which meant, was going to miss whatever those days were. And after that, I just never, I was like, oh man, I gotta catch up with all the weekend worth of block matches. Didn't happen. Had this show to do amongst other things. But either way, I'm a little torn. I'm excited to see. I'm certainly excited to see Tetsuya Naito head to Wrestle Kingdom once again, winning his 3rd G1. Really cool stuff. I like the idea of Sonata and Naito being like his first Wrestle Kingdom defense is, facing his former faction leader now as a faction leader himself. I think that's cool. I think that's a pretty cool, I think that's a pretty, it's a good story I think they're telling. But, and it'll kind of come down to, I think the story going into it's going to kind of write itself, it'll be Naito, a longtime leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón, versus Sonata, former member, and now, the newest leader of the newest faction, and it'll be one of those, is Sonata ready? Is he there? He made it. He finally beat Okada for the fucking world heavyweight title, and now that he's finally there, can he solidify himself as a real leader, or will Naito will Naito eke it out on him, still being the top, it's still kind of proving that he's not quite there yet. He's not hanging with Okada and Naito and those guys in the upper echelon yet, but we'll kind of find out. There's also talks that we're getting Yota Tsuji versus Ospreay for the US, now UK title, which I'm excited about, but we'll have to see. I don't know if that's like official or if I just saw something on Reddit about it, so let me be clear. Anyway, okay, enough talking wrestling. Shall we get into it? Oh, also, I have kept up. Well, no, I didn't keep up. I watched a couple block matches of the 5-star, and so far pretty good. I finally saw a Mariah May match, which I was ready to be a bit disappointed, in the sense that, like, you know, when Americans go over to Japan, it's kind of like a, you know that you're gonna get like a bit of awkward movement. You know you're gonna get some very stiff and unfluid, I think, pro wrestling from American women, unfortunately, just because they're trained differently in America than they are in Japan. But I was pleasantly surprised. I watched her match with Julia, and it was a pretty good match. Like, nothing crazy or anything. I wasn't, blown away or anything, but I was expecting, maybe, I was expecting her to be a bit shaky, but, like, she chose to come to Japan, so you figure she's got to have some awareness of what she's signing up for. And I was like, all right, it'll be like kind of a bit shaky, but it'll be all right. But I thought it was a little bit better than I expected. Definitely a little bit better than I expected. So that was a pleasant surprise. Otherwise, what else? Oh, I need to watch, I don't think it's up yet, Utami and Maui, I don't think is up yet on Stardom World. Hopefully it will be. Actually, now I'm really curious. Now I want to know if it's up yet, because I was gonna watch that, but it wasn't up yet last night. It doesn't look like it's up yet. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. Even though I am kind of sad I got spoiled for that. I know the finish, and I know the finish, so I did get a bit spoiled for that. But man, I was say, sorry. Love watching Utami matches. Fucking such a world beater. Anyway, okay, let's get into the news. Ooh, let's see what's the newest. Yes, I love. Okay, so I have a terrible habit of always checking my YouTube comments and responding to people that I find either funny, in their outrage, or I like to respond to people when they actually post substantive, like, comments. They either they ask a question or ask a rhetorical question, or make some assumption. I like to kind of speak to that and be like, all right, this is what you think my answer is going to be. Here's my actual answer. And there's like one dude who I wrote like it's on the longer side, but like nothing crazy, maybe a paragraph, and like an explanation of something, and of course like some other dipshit comes in and is like, oh, well, you're just doing mental gymnastics. It's like, no, it's not mental gymnastics. Just read critically for a few minutes. Like, I don't use a lot of fancy jargon or fancy words. I try not to be, and mainly because I'm not like, some highly educated, person who does this. I work in kitchens. I am as anybody would recognize, I am a working class American with a bit of college experience, but that's really it. Like, Anyway, I know. I'm still rambling. Let's go check in with Maui real quick to get an update, because I did not get to see any of the updates during the weekend. I love the AP's little stupid bar thing that always goes down. What do we got? Pentagon active duty forces at 3 to avoid logistical issues. Lovely. Actually, let's see. How bad is this? Jesus. Yeah, and you can kind of hear the winds here. This is what caused a lot of that fire to jump and move so quickly. Let's see. Pentagon active duty. The U.S. National Guard, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and U.S. Coast Guard are assisting with recovery efforts in the communities reeling from fires in Maui. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder said on Monday. However, no active duty forces are involved yet, Ryder said. That raises question as to why not. Hawaii is home to tens of thousands of active duty military personnel, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command and major Navy and Air Force installations. Miso, can you not? With ships and aircraft that could assist in flying in supplies or personnel. Ryder said those forces are ready to provide whatever support is requested by Hawaii, but that rushing in resources too quickly could create additional logistical problems for rescue operations on the ground. The multi-agency fire response has already been stymied by logistical issues and communication challenges, particularly during evacuations when sirens failed to sound and roadblocks hindered residents leaving. Indo-PACOM is a hair trigger to be Indo-PACOM. I don't know what that means. Is on a hair trigger to be able to support as necessary. Everyone fully understands the pain that people are experiencing right now. We want to do everything we can. We want to do everything we can. I'm assuming there's supposed to be two to help, but we also don't want to contribute to the problem by sending unnecessary capabilities that then will hinder any type of emergency response. So far, 250 Hawaii Army National Guard and Air National Guard members are assisting recovery operations. Army National Guard helicopters have dropped more than 189,000 gallons of water on the wildfires. The Army Corps of Engineers have sent debris removal teams and power experts, and the Army Reserve has provided space to collect and distribute supplies. Miso, what are you doing? So there's a printer over there, and I'm pretty sure he just like pulled. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you just like pulling? What? It's paper. It's a printer. It stays there. Good God. Jesus. Why are you what are you doing? Go lay down. You have been pretty calm most of the day, sleeping. This is usually your hour to sleep. Okay. Anyway. We are prepared for many tragic stories. Dude. It's not it. Okay. Hawaii Governor Josh Green says the number of people missing after the wildfires on Maui is dropping as people make contact with relatives and friends. But Green said that, quote, we are prepared for many tragic stories. The governor spoke during a recorded interview that was aired Monday. He said that search teams, quote, will find 10 to 20 people per day, probably until they finish. Green said the efforts are, quote, probably going to take 10 days. Although he cautioned that, quote, it's impossible to guess. Green said that the comprehensive review will be conducted in the wake of the frustrations that sirens and other warnings did not reach or alert residents to the fires. He said the review is, quote, not to find fault in anyone, but to say why this worked and this didn't work. Oprah brings supplies to Maui. Cool. Yeah, and I think we're like, I don't know. I think, yeah. Number of confirmed deaths stood at 96 around 9 p.m. Sunday. Jesus. Oh, man. Whoa. Jeez, yeah. Hearts go out, people. Hearts go out. Like, ooh, let me go grab my headphones. Rather. What are you doing now? Why are you doing What's
This was a home.
Sheesh. That looks like a fucking PUBG map. Good God. Alright. Now that those are there, we will need those later. Alright. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this as always, but I don't, until we have a better idea really of what caused all of this, which it seems like normal, wildfire, forest fire conditions, but they seem to be, my guess going in is it's going to be the normal conditions, that these fires happen under have just accelerated, and because of that, we see, we see these kinds of outcomes. Never let it be forgotten that the effects of climate change are not gonna be, just stateside. They are gonna be on these kind of island communities first before anybody else. Anyway, shall we take a look at Alabama? So Alabama, not exactly the best history when it comes to racial relations in the state. There's been a time or two where Alabama has dabbled in just a bit of KKK action, just a little bit of racism, just a little bit. It's a slave state and everything else. The new kind of way to oppress black people in this state has been through gerrymandering. We've heard it a million times. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Gerrymandering is the number one way to disenfranchise a group of voters that you would like to see, oppose you with a lot less ability. And because of that, when congressional maps get drawn, they're always up for review, sometimes by courts. And sometimes those courts approve them, sometimes they don't. But in this case, the Supreme Court had lost their map drawing, basically the map they had drawn as handed down by the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they kind of took that loss from the Supreme Court as a directive to halt their gerrymandering. So let's go take a look. Map of GOP proposal to withdraw Alabama's congressional maps is displayed at the Alabama State House in Montgomery, Alabama, during a special session in July. Oh boy. So do we notice, now I don't know what region it is. Oh, sorry. I don't know what region it is that, houses a lot of black people here. But do we notice this weird carve out in the middle of the state? Like this weird little light blue or light green, I guess this is. Like just a little bit suspect. You got this down, one down in the corner makes sense to me. Some of these, you have this one at the top here that's just like a random cutout. Like it's just a bit odd. The state of Alabama is taking an unusual legal position as it heads into a closely watched court hearing this week about its congressional voting districts. In June, Alabama lost at the U.S. Supreme Court. Oh, did we cover this? Provision prohibiting racial. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. I remember. I don't think we covered that, but I do remember hearing about it. A majority of justices upheld a lower court's ruling that found that the congressional map the state used in last year's midterm elections likely violated the landmark Voting Rights Act by diluting the power of black voters. The remedy the three-judge panel ordered was a new map with 2 districts where black voters have a realistic opportunity of electing their preferred candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. Because of how racially polarized voting is in Alabama, the panel said in each of those 2 districts, black Alabamans will need to make up the majority of the voting age population, or, quote, something quite close to it. But there is only one majority black district in the new redistricting plan. Is this cool. Yeah. Okay, doesn't want to load. Doesn't. Okay, maybe that loads, maybe it doesn't. We'll find out. Let's see. Passed by the state's Republican-controlled legislature last month. In another district, black Alabamans make up 39.9% of the voting age population, a share that the map's challengers say does not meet the court's requirements. And for this week's court hearing before the panel, Alabama says it's not planning to put up a fight on those specific points. Okay, doesn't seem like that wants to load. That's okay. After signing the contested map into law in July, Republican Governor Kay Ivey issued a statement saying, quote, "The legislature knows our state, our people, and our districts better than the federal courts or activist groups." Yep, which is to say what's the word? Okay, so you guys can't see or hear it, but he is like room to room, just fucking zooming and booming. Okay. Yeah. Legislature knows our state. It's white. Our people, they're white. In our districts, they're majority white. That's pretty much what they're. Let's see. The moves are raising questions about whether the state intends to follow federal court orders and how much longer this redistricting lawsuit will be dragged out with next year's elections looming. The ultimate map used by Alabama, where majority black districts are likely to elect Democrats and majority white districts are likely to elect Republicans, could help determine which major party wins the U.S. House. Alabama has raised the possibility of appealing to the Supreme Court again. I feel like you shouldn't be able to do this twice. Ahead of this week's hearing, the state has been trying to get the three-judge panel to allow its attorneys to argue that the panel's earlier ruling that requires 2 opportunity districts for black voters no longer applies. But in court orders, the judges have repeatedly reminded Alabama, we are not a square, we're square one in these cases. We are not at square one in these cases. Still, the state has signaled it's preparing to appeal at the Supreme Court any new ruling by the panel that does not allow it to use a congressional map with only one majority black voting district for the 2024 elections. Republican state lawmakers in Alabama seem to think their new map can flip at least one Supreme Court justice's vote to get a different ruling from the High Court, says Karen Creighton, Senior Director for Voting and Representation at the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University's Law School. Would Justice Brett Kavanaugh change his mind for this Alabama case? In Alabama's recent court briefs, there are multiple references to a concurring opinion by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who was one of the 2 conservatives who joined the Supreme Court's liberal justices to vote against Alabama and uphold the court's past rulings on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Kavanaugh's opinion echoed an argument by conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, we'll talk about him later, that questions whether it's constitutional for Congress to allow race-based redistricting to go on indefinitely. Oh, yes. So this is very much kind of, a lot of times you kind of saw this in the decision for college admissions where it's like, oh, should we allow courts to make a racially based decision on anything? The same way it's like, oh, should we let colleges like decide like, hey, we need more black people. So if you see black people in our admissions, let's like kind of, let's move them up a little bit and try to see if we can increase that population percentage. This is more of the usual like, oh, is it racist to want to, basically, what's the word? Mirror more the U.S. population with either your admissions or in this case, in terms of like reaching a fair and equal voting, voting opportunity. Like they'll say, what's funny is and a lot of it is mainly because like what they want to call racist is anything that takes race into account instead of what actually is the problem, which are laws that aren't racist, but the way that they're written target certain demographics and certain racial identities above others. It's really the like, we can't possibly recognize soft racism. It's just not a thing that the Supreme Court can recognize. Let's see. They seem to believe that theirs is the case to test that question, Creighton says, about what may be the end game for Alabama's GOP state lawmakers. Given how Kavanaugh has already voted in this case, however, Creighton says it's clear that the justice is, quote, not inclined to, in 1 year, somehow think that the state refusing to draw a second majority black district was somehow compliant with the 3-judge panel's order or the Supreme Court. Peyton McCrary, a former historian in the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, who now teaches at the George Washington University Law School, is also skeptical of Alabama's likelihood of getting the Supreme Court to weigh in again for this case. Alabama's resistance to the panel's order for a map with 2 opportunity districts for black voters, McCrary says, continues a long history of the state looking for every possible way to follow the federal court's order when it comes to not to follow a federal court's order when it comes to the voting rights of people of color. Alabama has been wasting people's time for decades trying to do things that are unlikely to prevail, and it's doing so yet again. Yeah, what's new? What is new? To put it plainly, the Republican Party has no interest in the voting rights of people who will not be voting for Republicans. And considering that is a pretty small majority in the black community, they will simply not do what they need to do to secure the voting rights of black Americans. That's just kind of how this game works. Unfortunately, it is not within their interest to have more black voters voting for the simple reason that they're not going to vote Republican. And a lot of these Republicans are, especially if they're in Alabama, probably pretty fucking racist. So, when they have no interest in any of this stuff. And, the Republican Party over the last, I don't know, maybe the last, it's hard to say. Maybe the last 20 years has really, really become mask off with their racism, and obviously have been, heading down that fascism track faster and faster. But, this is just another example of, of a Republican-led state. We hear from the GOP all the time how much they care about voting rights and democracy and everything in between. But when push comes to shove, those are really only things that they're interested in when it comes to their voters, which are predominantly white, predominantly, non-college educated. It's also why they have no interest in college. So, Miso, what are you doing? What are you doing, boy? Why are you picking at that? What are you doing, dude? What you're doing is distracting me with your nonsense. Anyway, so in that article they mentioned Clarence Thomas. Okay, it looks like he's trying to fold the paper down and then he's gonna lay on the piece of paper. That seems to be the plan. Okay, if that's what you're going with, I respect it, buddy. I respect it. Sorry, it's Monday. Forgive me. All right. So, we mentioned Clarence Thomas while talking about that Alabama story. Let's take a quick look here, shall we? So, Clarence Thomas, wasn't he the first? No, is he? No, wait. Is Clarence? No, I don't think he's the first black. No, he might be. George W. Bush to succeed Thurgood Marshall. Okay, no, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. Second, he's the second. Sorry, that's right. Because Ketanji Brown is third, right? Right. What's going on? Oh, cool. Anyway, Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, conservative, sexual assaulter. Yeah, that's what I've I remember hearing some stuff about that. Well, ProPublica has been has really had their eyes on Clarence Thomas and his ethical lapses of judgment, one might say. Because it appears that, under more investigation, ProPublica has found that Clarence Thomas has gone on a number of vacations, a number of been gifted a number of things. It's a bit overwhelming. Now, luckily, I have some notes for this, so let's go over the numbers really quickly. Clarence Thomas, over his career since ascending to being a Supreme Court justice, has taken 26 private jet flights, have been shuttled to 38 destinations. He's been given 8 helicopter flights, been gifted at least 12 professional or college sports VIP tickets. He's been accommodated for 2 luxury resort stays, one in Florida and one in Jamaica. Received a very exclusive golf club invitation. He's been on a yacht cruise. These are all things from Harlan Crow. As ProPublica's done more of digging, they found more of a lot of the goodies that Clarence Thomas's sugar daddy, billionaire, has been gifting him over the last 20 to 30 years or so. In this article, they luckily went over. It's a long article, so let me scroll down to these guys. So in this article, they discovered 3 more, wealthy benefactors to Clarence Thomas. Those being H. Wayne Huizenga, David Sokol, and Paul Novelli, all left to right in this picture. All of these men were they weren't acquaintances, they weren't friends, they weren't associates of Clarence Thomas until after his ascension to the court. All of these men almost certainly work in industries that appear in front of the court. Again, a very long article. So let's talk about this a little bit. Is Clarence Thomas corrupt? I think that kind of goes without saying. I don't really think that one could make the argument that this many donors to his maybe not personal fund, but certainly his personal expenses, people who fly him around in their jets. Oh, let's see. Huizenga, as a good example, flew Clarence Thomas twice in his personal jet, estimated at a worth of $130,000. Harlan Crow donated $105,000 to I believe it was Yale for their basically Clarence Thomas portrait room. So that's just another what's it called? It's always kind of interesting to see, the justices, and Clarence Thomas has gone out there and said this before, that the job doesn't pay that well. Being a Supreme Court justice, just it's not really, the hassle isn't worth the money, but it's the position, it's the the honor to be a Supreme Court justice that motivates him to do it. When in reality, I think it's fairly obvious that Clarence Thomas doesn't really give much of a shit about being a Supreme Court justice, except for the fact that he gets a bunch of billionaire buddies to fund his vacations, fund his travel, fund all his little hobbies, and all the while he gets all of the power, he gets all of the prestige, all of it, and he gets to be a millionaire, or at the very least he gets to be given all of the things that millionaires would end up buying anyway. But let's take a look. So ProPublica went over all these guys, but somebody that they focused on was specifically David Sokol. So whatever the fuck, this asshole here in the blue. So David Sokol is a $1 million donor to the GOP. Donating millions over the last 10 years to the party. He has apparently hosted Thomas every summer for at least a decade. He was ousted from his law firm for insider trading. He was quoted. He's quoted in the article as saying, "quote when asked about the jet rides and the personal travel that Clarence Thomas receives from these folks, he was asked about that, and it was quoted as saying, "I believe that given security concerns, all the Supreme Court justices should either fly privately or on governmental aircrafts," which is kind of funny, right? Because that's kind of him admitting like, yeah, I just, I give all the justices rides if they want it. They just, none of them ever really ask me if, for rides. I'm willing to give it. They're supreme. If Ketanji Brown Jackson ever wants a ride, in the plane, she just has to ask. I own this plane. It doesn't cost me much. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Just go ahead and fly in it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. Whereas, it's crazy to me because this is rather obvious, right? Like, he's obviously taking money. He's obviously, living a lifestyle that does not comport with a Supreme Court justice. We can see a little bit, getting hosted at what's the word, at college football games, going to getting to sit in the VIP, meeting coaches. Yes, this right here is a picture of Sokol's Jackson Hole, Wyoming home. This sort of I don't even know, gaudy ass, like the worst thing is it's all this oh, look at my deer, and aren't I, just a small town living boy. It's like, come on. I think this is also the same one. Yep. The Thomases and others spent several days at the ranch, late summer 2019. We'll get to Mark and Trisha Paoletta. We'll get to them in a minute. The ultimate home, and it has the most iconic view of the Tetons I've ever seen, said a local radio personality. Paintbrush Ranch is what it's called. But yeah, inside, an insider trading guy. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh yeah, totally predicted the overturn of Biden's student loan program. That could just be a coincidence, maybe that's just a coincidence. I tend to think probably not, but this is what it is on that one. Yeah, just pulling it out there, just and also hosted these two lovely folks, Mark and Trisha Paoletta, who, I think in the thing, Mark and Trisha Paoletta saying a special tribute to Clarence they created. I don't even know what this is, a fucking flyer for their vacation. Like, this is grotesque. This is grotesque, corruption. Like it's out in the open. That's like the worst part. But yeah, all while at the time that, quote, let me see. At the time, Paoletta was general counsel and the designated ethics official at the Office of Management and Budget. So you're telling me that the ethics counsel, or the ethics official at the Management and Budget Office is going to these little get-togethers, these little getaways with a Supreme Court justice, something that's paid for, all in full, all the travel, all inclusive, all of it, all paid for by these millionaires, these billionaires, these these rather obviously interested parties in the Supreme Court's actions and direction. I don't, obviously we can't go over this article. It is a long article. But I only really have one thing to say, which is, when we talk about government corruption, this is the sort of thing I'm thinking of, right? The buying of influence by the wealthy is in and of itself a danger to our democracy. It is why I've said before that capitalism is at the core of the problem in American politics and at the core of American society. When we live in a system where your wealth can buy you an outsized voice in this nation, then we don't live in a democracy. We don't live in what's really a place designed to offer the most for the most people. It's what this is monopoly. What this is whoever gets, whoever can amass the most amount of wealth is going to end up being who wins on all of this. There's a reason why Clarence Thomas doesn't disclose this stuff. There's a reason why he has no interest in informing the public as to his relationships with these sorts of people. And it's because he understands how this game works. He understands full well what these relationships constitute. And, if there was ever a time, if there was ever a person to be impeached from the Supreme Court, it would be Clarence Thomas. Plain and simple. Clarence Thomas, in front of every other Supreme Court justice, should be impeached for this. This is not just ethical lapses in judgment. This is a pattern. This is a pattern of non-disclosure and a pattern of non-disclosure of, quite frankly, questionable relationships. As of now, we have not yet figured out, or at the very least, we have not learned that any of these gentlemen had cases in front of the Supreme Court. But, and let's be clear here, it's not about if you have cases in front of the Supreme Court. While that is bad, and that is certainly the maximalist of negative outcomes that come from this, the real issue is somebody having an undue and an undue access to the opinions, to the direction of the court, and an understanding of that above and in front of everybody else. Quite frankly, at the end of the day, these guys are hedge fund guys. These guys are industry guys, meaning that they don't need their businesses. They need their industries to be treated with a soft touch from the Supreme Court. So, but either way, it's just, if this was, to any Republicans out there, any conservatives, if this was a Democrat, would you be okay with this? Would you be okay with this amount of incidental, payments, incidental trips? Oh yeah, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, or Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Oh yeah, she rides on Soros's plane all the time. You don't think that would be a problem for you? You don't think that would be something that you're gonna find issue with? Come on, spare me. But yeah, if there was anybody. Oh yeah, let's take a look at this. After the ProPublica report, Clarence Thomas continues to basically spit in the face of any kind of oversight of his ethics here. So let's take a look at this.
Details about Clarence Thomas's, the Supreme Court justice, his life off the Supreme Court bench. This morning, ProPublica broke a new report detailing lavish vacations, private jet trips, and VIP treatment at sporting events, all funded by several billionaire friends. Let's bring in our colleague Tom Foreman to explain. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. Public support in the polls for the Supreme Court has really been dropping. Faith in the court.
I wonder
People
why.
just are not convinced that it's operating the way it ought to, and this report will not help.
The most complete accounting yet of the high life of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
Oh, let's also keep in mind Ginny Thomas, a fucking psychopath and a fascist.
Shows much, much more than previously known. More private jets, more fancy vacations, more sporting events. All gifts from mega-rich businessmen and documented through public and private records, plus interviews by ProPublica.
Justice Thomas has been living a life of extreme luxury for 30 years, underwritten by at least 4 different ultra-wealthy benefactors.
Jeez.
Earlier reports have revealed lavish gifts to Thomas, including a house for his mother and this 9-day vacation in Indonesia from conservative billionaire Harlan Crow.
I've come from regular stock.
Who also underwrote a film about Thomas's humble taste.
I prefer the RV parks.
Now the list of
And like, what's funny is Clarence Thomas will come out here and be like, I prefer the trailer parks and the RV parks. And it's like, then why don't we ever hear about this, bruh? Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, over here spending all your time at these fucking ranches. Like, this is somebody who wants to drape himself in like this average man image when he is anything but. He's a Supreme Court justice who's best friends with billionaires and millionaires. Like, fucking spare me on this. He is not one of us. He is not one of the working class. He is, quite frankly, just another paid off member of our government.
benefactors includes 3 more names, according to ProPublica: David Sokol, Wayne Huizenga, and Tony Novelli. The report says the 4 moguls collectively treated Thomas to 38 destination vacations, including a previously unreported voyage on a yacht around the Bahamas, 26 private
normal
jet
stock.
flights,
Normal stock. I come from average stock. I come from the working man.
plus an additional 8 by helicopter, a dozen VIP
Hey, I went
passes
through
to
all these
professional and
numbers.
college sporting events, 2 stays at luxury resorts in Florida and Jamaica, and 1 standing invitation to an uber-exclusive golf club. The dollar value likely in the millions, little of which appeared in required financial disclosures, according to ProPublica. Thomas has previously said he didn't feel the need to disclose some gifts, and that worries Jeremy Fogel, an expert on judicial ethics and a former judge.
I simply couldn't have done this. And even if the people involved didn't have interest before the court, it's just the idea that you are.
Well, and like I said, it's like not only that, but like just because they don't have, they're not in front of the Supreme Court. What that does also is send up a signal to anybody who wants to buy the influence of Clarence Thomas. All they have to do is send them on some trips. So, say give them some. You want to go to the Super Bowl this year and sit in the VIP seats? It's all yours, buddy. Here you go. Just when it's time to when it's time to tell my workers that they don't have a right to organize, you're gonna be right there for me. Yeah, it's stuff like that.
Receiving gifts of this magnitude.
Associate justices make about $285,000 a year.
God,
In
imagine
2001,
making
when they
that
made
much,
about
and it's like-
100,000 less. Thomas spoke up.
The job is not worth doing for what they pay. It's not worth doing for the grief, but it is worth doing for the principle.
What a piece of shit. Because quite frankly, Clarence Thomas will go out there and be like, it's not worth it's not worth all the bullshit, but it's worth it for the principle. You know what his principle is? His principle is, I get to push my conservative, I get to push my conservative value, privilege that. And also some people will actually pay me millions of dollars to do so. And, I get to be, a powerful member of society. Sweet. If you guys won't pay me millions, I'll just go to my millionaire and billionaire friends and they'll just buy me everything. They'll just give me gifts of buying my family's homes, tuition payments for nephews and shit like that. Like, it's insane.
Now he bristles at questions about his principles. He calls Crow merely a friend. Crow says they never talk about Thomas's work, and the new report found none of these wealthy pals seem to have had cases before the court. Still,
Each one of these new benefactors, just like Harlan Crow, came into
keep in
his
mind,
life
we haven't
after
found
he was
it yet.
appointed to the Supreme Court. That's why it's so problematic from an ethics standpoint.
I'll point out Wayne Huizenga died about 5 years ago, so this has been going on for quite a long time. There's no evidence that these rich friends broke any rules or laws in giving these gifts. And it is not entirely clear technically if Clarence Thomas broke any rules by accepting them right now. But what has happened here, the earlier revelations really raised a public furor over the idea that there should be strict and clear rules about what the Supreme Court justices.
And like, here's the overall question. Why shouldn't there be? Like, really, the idea that there aren't ethics rules, like hardcore stamped out, like, no, you actually can't do this. Not like, oh, you're the Supreme Court. You can interpret it. You cannot have rules for yourselves. Like, there's no logical argument as to why the Supreme Court should have absolutely no ethical guardrails. There's just none. There's no argument for it, unless you would like to engage in corruption. That's all it really is. If you're okay with this, it's because A, you either agree with Clarence Thomas's politics, or B, you are a member of the government and would like to see less ethics violations, or should I say, you would like to see more ethics violations because you don't believe in ethics. You just don't care. You don't give a shit because you got in the job because you know you're going to get paid. $285,000 a year is not fucking poverty. It's absurd to think like, oh, how many of us, how many amongst you, $285,000 a year? That'd be a godsend. That'd be life-changing for so many people. So many people would be living, such different lives, making that kind of money. But, to somebody like Clarence Thomas, somebody like these Supreme Court justices, that's not enough for them. It's fucking gross.
Can and can't accept, and no doubt that drumbeat is going to get a lot louder now.
Tom Foreman, thank you. Certainly is.
All right, joining us at the table now is one of the...
Anyway. Yeah, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. Impeach the son of a bitch. That's all. Like that. That's it. That's all. That's the only way you deal with this in any kind of meaningful way. You impeach him, you get him the fuck out, and you replace him with a liberal. And to anybody who will cry about, oh, Josh, you just want a liberal in there. Da, da, da. Yeah, maybe I do. Guess what? I don't care. Maybe, maybe don't have Supreme Court justices that are conservative, that are obviously corrupt. Maybe don't have like the most corrupt Supreme Court justice on your in your ranks. Maybe that. Maybe work on that there. From infuriating news to actually some good news. So the Teamsters in their UPS negotiation have come to an agreement. This happened last week. I think it was Friday, right? Yeah. Reached an agreement Friday. I like the agreement. It looks good. Let's go take a look, shall we? Let's watch this first, actually.
UPS averting a strike by the Teamsters Union this week. News of the deal lifting a weight off the shipping giant ahead of its second quarter earnings report on August 8th. But investors may have some concerns about the rising costs for Big Brown. Teamsters saying that it was a $30 billion deal. Joining us now for more, we want to bring in Donald Broughton. He's a principal and managing partner at Broughton Capital. Donald, it's great to have you here. So I believe you expected the Teamsters to strike, but they didn't. Why were you a little bit surprised by this deal?
Well, we thought that what was happening was that Sean O'Brien was positioning himself to have some theater, to have some marketing about what he...
Actually, no, go back. I want just a normal... This is longer than I wanted. Oh, no, not that one. Okay, cool. It didn't click it. Is this the one I want? Yes, let's do it.
This hour, UPS and the Teamsters Union have reached an agreement to avoid a historic strike.
The two sides agreeing to a new 5-year deal after weeks of negotiations. More than 300,000 employees from the package delivery giant were preparing to walk off the job a week from today. Let's get right to NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett. Maura, what do we know about this deal? Walk us through.
Yeah, guys, this is after more than a month of negotiations, and the two groups hit a sticking point, mostly over part-time worker pay. There was a lot that was included in this deal, and I want to remind you that right now this is just a tentative deal that needs to be voted on by union members at the end of the month. But the big win is that they did get a pay increase for these part-time workers. Some people were making as low as $15.50 an hour. They will be bumped up immediately to $21 an hour or more, and then there's also promises to make an increase of pay over this 5-year contract. They've also promised to put air conditioners and fans in those iconic brown UPS delivery.
Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. The idea that we've had some pretty distressingly hot days in the US recently. And the idea that there's not AC, there's not fans in these trucks. These are things that like you want to know why they had to negotiate fans and AC put into their trucks? Because it costs money. And UPS doesn't want to spend money, even if it would mean the health and safety of their package deliverers. Like, whatever you think of UPS as a business, there's a reason why they, like when you hear some of the negotiating terms, you think to yourself, wait, they had to negotiate that? Like, you had to demand in your demands, you had to have in there in your negotiations that like, hey, we need fans, we need AC for our drivers as they, since they're outside driving all day and everything else. Like, that's a thing that UPS was like, okay, fine, we'll spend the money to put that stuff in. Like, and it's just the lengths any company, and this includes whoever you work for, by the way, whoever you work for, this includes them too. Whatever thing it is that you know would make your life, your work more tolerable, more sustainable, more survivable. And I don't mean sustainable in like energy wise. I mean sustainable for yourself. Whether it be AC, whether it be fans, whether it be safety equipment, whatever. Understand that every company is not looking to buy any of that shit. None of them want to spend money on your safety, because every dollar spent towards your safety is a dollar coming out of their profits. And it takes unions and it takes organized labor to secure these sorts of things. Because at the end of the day, the profit margin is what is at the heart of UPS. Not to offer job opportunities, not to deliver packages the best way. Nope. Somebody realized that they could deliver packages faster or in competition with USPS if they cut a few corners. And if they if they did enough things, they could turn a profit on that. And they did successfully. And they made sure that that profit was as high as possible every single year at the expense of their workers' safety, their rights, their health, their wages, all of it. They will always put their bottom line in front of your entire life, every aspect of it. Because there is no motivating factor outside of the profit margin.
Delivery trucks to help out workers in these record-breaking heat situations, and there's some other little nuggets buried in there that really do emphasize worker protections. And so both sides, the UPS and the union, are really celebrating this deal, and obviously avoids that potential strike that we were all waiting to see how that would play out. And obviously that would have been one of the costliest strikes in U.S. history.
Yeah, big developments on a strike that a lot of people were watching out for. Maura Barrett, thank you.
All right. So, let's see, what do we got? UPS union negotiated historic contract. Now workers have the final say. All right. Morris, part-time warehouse worker, spends his 3.5-hour shift loading heavy items, bed frames, car tires, air conditioning units on trucks for delivering across New York City. He's typically expected to load a minimum of 4 trucks with 300 packages each. My hands hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts, and we only have a 10-minute break. Morris earned $16.60 per hour, up from $15.50 when he was hired last year. On July 25th, the Teamsters Union reached a tentative contract agreement with UPS securing wage increases for the 340,000 workers it represents and narrowly averted a nationwide strike after weeks of stalled negotiations. Teamsters leadership had threatened a disruptive walkout if the company failed to meet their economic demands. Rank and file union members are casting their ballots until casting their ballots until August 22nd. For the deal to go into effect, it needs to pass by a majority vote. While Teamsters leadership is boasting the historic gains, Morris isn't convinced the deal does enough to fairly compensate and protect UPS employees, especially part-timers who make up the majority of the company's unionized workforce, and those strenuous work and work the delivery giant relies on. Under the 5-year agreement, wages for existing part-timers would be raised to no less than $21 per hour. The subsequent increases over the course of the contract. Let's see. The contract has a lot of gains. There are many positive things we obtained because of the strike threat, but then $21 an hour is below our expectation. Morris said he's voting against the deal, not because it isn't a step forward for workers, but because he thinks the union could leverage its momentum to fight for more. Jose Francisco Negrit, a part-time package handler in Anaheim, California, is also voting no on the deal. He said he was, quote, discombobulated when he saw the economic provisions of the tentative agreement. I wanted UPS to acknowledge what we gave the UPS during the pandemic, especially the lockdown. Nowhere in the contract does it reflect what we gave UPS during that time. Let's see. Union says deal raises the bar for all workers. This year, UPS workers have more power to reject the deal than in previous contract votes. That's because Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien, who took the helm of the union in 2021, pushed for a change to the union constitution that allows workers to vote down a deal with a simple majority. Previously, 2/3 of the workers needed to vote down a contract in order to override Teamsters leadership if turnout was below 50%. Former Teamsters leader James Hoffa, for example, ratified the 2018 contract despite 54% of the workers voting against it. Teamsters leadership is urging workers to approve the deal. The union's social media channels are filled with video testimonials of workers who say they're voting in favor of it. Along with wage increases, UPS agreed to equip new delivery vehicles with air conditioning and forced overtime with air conditioning and force overtime and eliminate a 2-tier pay system for delivery drivers, among other concessions. This is the most lucrative contract in labor history, O'Brien said during a webinar for union members, referring to the $30 billion in new money in the agreement. We got more money, higher wages than ever before, huge non-economic gains. Local Teamsters chapters across the U.S. voted nearly unanimously to endorse the contract, O'Brien said. O'Brien said it, quote, sets the tone for the entire labor movement. A Teamsters spokesperson said workers gain more in this tentative agreement than over the last 40 years. Part-time wage growth from 1982 to 2022 was $7.25 an hour. Over the course of this of the new 5-year agreement, it would amount to $7.50 an hour. UPS CEO Carol Tomei also called the deal, quote, a, quote, win-win-win agreement for Teamsters leadership and employees and the company. They're obviously full of shit. This agreement continues to reward, because at the end of the day, they don't want a win-win-win. They want a win. That's it. They just want a single win, and it's for management. This agreement continues to reward UPS's full and part-time employees with industry-leading pay and benefits while retaining the flexibility we need to stay competitive, serve our customers, and keep our business strong. During an earnings call on August 8th, UPS said its revenue for the most recent fiscal quarter fell short of expectations as delivery volume dropped during labor negotiations. UPS also lowered projected 2023 revenue due to the cost of the contract, which is the largest private sector bargaining agreement in North America. A strike among 340,000 UPS workers could disrupt package deliveries across the country and shake up an increasingly competitive package delivery market. President Biden praised Teamsters and UPS for avoiding the widespread ramifications of a shutdown. If workers vote down the tentative agreement, they could force the Teamsters negotiating committee to reopen talks with the company and bring back the threat of a strike. A range of opinions among workers. Let's see. UPS workers have a range of views on the deal hammered out by the union. Christina Paxson, a part-time package handler in Reno, Nevada, said she's content with the hourly pay raise she would see, $23.20, up from her current rate of $19. Jeez. $19 up to $23. That's a good fucking raise right there. I saw enough movement in the contract to get us in the spot where I don't have to have a reason to vote no. Our last contract really took us backwards, so for us to make progress is huge for us. But some employees are pointing to the company's recent economic gains as evidence that it can afford to raise starting wages more. UPS posted a record profit last year as the company reached $100 billion in revenue in 2022 for the first time. Jennifer Hancock, a part-time package sorter, has worked at UPS for more than 3 decades. She's an organizer with Teamsters Mobilize, an employee group that aims to level the playing field for part-time workers. Hancock said she thinks the economic elements of the deal could go further, like establishing a $25 base rate for part-timers. That'd be fucking huge. 25 as a base rate? But the fact that O'Brien has challenged the Teamsters status quo and pushed UPS to make concessions, Hancock added, has empowered workers to voice this kind of dissent. The election of Sean O'Brien really motivated people to think that they could make a difference. That we have a new contract coming up, we have a new president, and let's try some new things. That was a signal that times had changed. So, I mean, look, guys, leadership fucking matters. It matters a lot more than I think people give it credit for. At the end of the day, what's the word I'm looking for? At the end of the day, you're not seeing, Biden touts himself a lot as a pro-labor president. And, Biden's labor bona fides are not perfectly clean, but not awful either. But this is what real leadership looks like. At the end of the day, the way in which we interact with the economy and we interact with the broader I think what's the word I'm looking for, like the broader workforce is collectively the way that workers get what they need is, since individual workers don't have mass sums of money. They don't have influence with politicians or legislatures. They don't have access to these kinds of levers of power. What they do have is people. What workers have are people, and a damn lot of them. And at the end of the day, what's the word I'm looking, what's the phrase I'm looking for, I guess. The only way that workers are going to get what they need is through organizing and through collective bargaining. It is the way historically it's worked in this country. It is the way it will probably always kind of work in this country, because through, if you have a lack of funds, if you have a lack of capital power, but you have a lot of populist power, that's really the only way that you're going to be able to flex those muscles, and the only way you're going to be able to really address those kinds of issues. So, this is incredibly important. Really happy to see it. I'm happy to see, these kinds of labor actions, because, and they said it in that article, the amount of progress they're going to make in 5 years is going to outpace the amount of work and the amount of progress that they made in the last 40 years. And that just tells you, it shows you in stark contrast what labor action can get you, what it can net you in, in benefits. At the end of the day, the people who hold power, people who own capital, have an ability to shape society, shape the relationship that they have with you based on based on their wealth. And the only way you get ahead of that is with people. So this is, and not only that, but more unionization, more people coming together as workers in the working class coming together is going to create also voting solidarity. You're going to see these. I think what you end up seeing a lot of times is when, as labor representation has gone down, we've seen this kind of divide happen in the U.S., right? We've seen this divide, this polarization between people of, left of center or right of center political views. And I think unions, better than maybe anything else, are really able to cut through that polarization and bring people together under their class issues, under their, class goals, which really is most of the time just to live a pretty average life. I don't think most people want to be millionaires. I think most people just want to be able to live comfortably, in the neighborhoods that they're in. But either way, solidarity, love to see it. That is, we're a little bit over, but that's okay. We're gonna head into the legally distinct fun half. I'm gonna go grab water. We're just gonna be right back. So yeah, hang out. Be back in a minute.
So do not shop at Target, or else you're gay. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes.
Just to simplify this, I think we're just going to use.
I may keep the pantyhose on. This feels kind of good, actually.
Larger than that, Darby. I live like a capitalist every single day.
Beat it up, N-word.
What is more important to our culture than the Joker?
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
I like black guys a lot. The alpha males are back.
There we go. We're back. Okay, so we're into the fun half. So you know what that means? That usually means, just a bit of taking it easy a bit. Okay, so the theme going into this fun half right now, I think is, I put it in the description as like the rot in in the US, the societal rot in the US, but that's not actually my original. You can only fit so much in these descriptions. What you'll kind of see a theme here, a little bit, which is, what's the word I'm looking for? Which is kind of Americans, I think, coming to an understanding of the format or the society that they're really living in. If you are younger, even if you're older, you probably look at the United States and think things really have gotten worse, and not in like a way where you go, oh, you probably not in ways that I think feel like, we're told every day, oh, the economy's doing really good. Oh, jobless claims are down, and all these things, and none of those things are necessarily wrong, but you probably walk outside and you think people used to go outside and people used to just be happier, and I go to work and I'm miserable a lot of the times, and people used to people used to work jobs that maybe they didn't love, but they lived full lives outside of those jobs. And now we kind of live in a time where, you know, it's just, you're not paid enough to do any of those things. You know, we have a 2-income household here, and even then we're not, you know, we're not, you know, we're not going out all the time. We're not able to do everything we want to do, or even do, like, you know, vacations for us are kind of difficult to plan around, because we have to plan, you know, if one of us is not going to get you know, PTO for that time, if, you know, if neither of us get PTO during that time. It's just the everyday, I think, relationship people have to the rest of society just has become so strained. And what we're going to kind of see in this batch of videos, I think, is a bit of a manifestation of people coming to that understanding through a couple of different lenses. Now, some of these, the first 2 videos are going to be, we're going to be looking at Jordan Peterson with his supposed solutions for Generation Z. And then we're going to take a look at Tim Pool going over the suicides in the US hitting record levels, or at the very least, hitting an all-time high. Yeah. Because I think I want to start with kind of where, or maybe, no, I want to go in this order. And then we're gonna, and then I'm gonna dive a little bit into the Oliver Anthony stuff from last week. He's a country singer. It's a bit interesting. But either way, let's check. You know, we don't. I think, like, I try to do Jordan Peterson every once in a while, but, like, his videos are always just a fucking decade long. Like, all of his videos are like 2 decades long, and because of that, I just don't have time to watch any of them on stream. But this one luckily showed up on Fox and on Fox News to opine about his solutions. So, you know, Jordan Peterson, self-help guru, daddy to a bunch of boys on the internet. Let's take a look, shall we?
You're going to love this. I recently sat down with world-renowned psychologist and author Dr. Jordan Peterson.
I don't know about
we talked about a
world-renowned
number of things, including
He's just
education
a psychologist,
versus indoctrination, and his mission to fight the far-left woke agenda in schools.
I just realized it's only
maybe
at
your school.
50%. 1 second. My actual audio volume's on. There we go. All right, cool.
Well, as why Gen Zs can't cut it in the workforce. Not all of you, but some of you, and how we can help them. You got a new study showing new 2023 hires are unprepared for work. They're unprepared for life. Dr. Peterson's take on all.
All right, let's see. Gen Z's soft skills struggle. So, okay, I want everybody to remember this. Actually, matter of fact, where is it? Give me this. I want everybody, we're going to remember this real quick. I'm going to take that. We're going to take this. We're going to put this to the side. I want everyone to remember this little list here, because this is going to show us a little bit of an insight into how disconnected conservatives are from an actual understanding of young people in 2023. So what do we got? Make change at a register. Work with others, make eye contact, deal with frustration, stay off phones, take initiative. If you are in Gen Z, to Fox News, this is what you are. You don't take initiative. All you do is stare at your phone. You don't know how to deal with your emotions. You don't make eye contact. You don't like working with others. I haven't heard that one. And apparently you can't count change at a register. These are the things that are holding and stopping Gen Z from, these are the things that are going to stop them from owning houses, right? Like, I'm a millennial. I've worked registers, I've worked retail, I've worked food service all of my life. And, like, I can do every one of these things. Do you know what I don't do? I don't own a home. Like, the idea that any of these have a bearing on your ability to live at a higher what's the word at a higher level, or a what's the word I'm looking for, you know, that any of this has any kind of bearing, that these kind of small, minute generational gripes, like any of this is going to change some Gen Zer's life, is actually insane.
All of this,
naturally, it's written in Wall Street
is
Journal as if
fascinating.
any of this is data.
When this study popped up, we thought, you got to weigh in on this. They say that Gen Zers come in, they're sincere, but if they have no necessary instinct on what to do next, find them a lot sitting idly by, waiting for instructions on what to do next. Does that make sense to you? Something about this generation that would have trouble being self-motivated?
Well, I think that if you set up an education system that's designed to do nothing but demoralize young people and to convince them that their ambition is dangerous and, well, even world-threatening for that matter, a manifestation of patriarchy.
So what is he talking about? No, really, I'm actually kind of wondering. Because the question is, oh, educational system. Really? You think it's the educational system? Could it possibly be that when it comes to education, the reason why young folks aren't like, you know, don't have faith in the education system might be because, you know, going to college does not reap you any of the benefits that it did 30 years ago? That, you know, and again, we're going to go over another video that Fox News also hosted for some idiotic reason. But like, keep this in mind. Like, what is he even referring to? Nothing. He's not referring to anything. He's also not referring to any data. He's just kind of talking about the things that bother him. What he's doing is projecting his issues with the educational environment, something who which he's a professional in, or was, I should say, and projecting that onto students.
Patriarchal oppression on the social front, and then a danger to the survival of the planet on the natural front, then, and you don't do anything to foster young people and to convince them that their ambition is dangerous and, well, even world-threatening for that matter.
Well, first of all, who does that? Isn't that all boomers who all come in here and say, you all are going to ruin society by being a bit more gay? Could it possibly be that that's something that they, that bears down on them, Jordan? Could it possibly be? Not only that, but like if they recognize climate change and they have an understanding, they've lived, they like, unlike me, you know, I grew up at a time when, back when climate change was termed as global warming. And I remember when it was a real debate in terms of whether global warming was happening, whether we were causing it, yada, yada, yada. And there were people who would like debate this. But in 2023, there is no debate about this. There is no scientifically backed argument to say anything other than, yes, it's happening. Yes, we're causing it. It's because of the burning of our fossil fuels. That's it. It's as simple as that. And now the argument becomes, oh, well, you know, the argument is shifted from, is it happening, to should we care? To which is, you know, it's just a simple like, well, you probably should, because we kind of live on the planet. We pass the planet down. If you were a real conservative, you would want to conserve that planet. But, you know, what are they actually conserving? They're actually interested in not in conserving the planet or conserving, you know, livable life on this planet for humans. They're interested in conserving patriarchy. They're interested in conserving capital. That's the only thing they're actually interested in conserving.
A manifestation of patriarchal oppression on the social front, and then a danger to the survival of the planet on the natural front, then, and you don't do anything to foster that ambition and to channel it into a manner that might be productive and to tell young people why their ambition might be useful, then you're going to get exactly that. So you hit what you aim at if you try hard enough, and the education system has been trying to demoralize people for 60 years. One of the things that really stuck.
And how? Like, no, really, like, I actually have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. any Jordan Peterson fans out there, if you'd like to weigh in, by all means. I have no fucking clue what he's talking about. What does he mean by the education system demoralizing people? The only thing demoralizing is getting an education and then finding out at the end of it, oh, by the way, this actually doesn't pay off. That's demoralizing.
Stuns me. I haven't been able to figure this out yet. I've been trying to talk to Republican governors about this. I cannot understand why conservatives have been daft enough to allow the faculties of education to retain their hammerlock on teacher certification for the last 60 years.
This is literally just him complaining about his own certification.
It's insane.
You mean the criteria to get the certification and what's in it?
You have to be trained in a faculty of education to become a teacher. Why? They're the most woke element of the entire rotten university carcass, and they have the hammer.
This is literally just complaining about because he's getting his certification pulled, possibly, and this is just him whining about it.
Hammerlock on 50% of the state budgets. The conservatives are always complaining about the culture war. It's like, well, you handed all the young people to the faculties of education, right? Their research is terrible. It's low rate. Their students are generally very incompetent, comparatively speaking, on the academic front,
Comparatively, okay. First of all right, like, again, we're not really... I like, there's no data here, which I don't really think he has needs or cares about. What he's complaining about simply is that educators tend to be liberal, to which, conservatives don't have an interest in public education. They haven't for a long time. They have always been interested, at least in my lifetime, they have been interested primarily over the last 30 years with shifting college into shifting education into the private sector. What they want is education, but only for people who can afford it. That's pretty much it. Because again, they are like, I don't know if they're just fucking devotees to capitalism so much, or they just know that their kids are the ones who will end up getting the education. Therefore, they're fine with keeping, allowing education for everybody to be waylaid instead for education for those who can afford it. If you know you can afford it, then you got no problem with changing the entry requirements, I guess.
It's foolish, and this is the outcome. It's not surprising.
And it's a way to work on the foundation. And when you have an RNC chair or a DNC chair, if you have an agenda, that's what to work on. Don't get Mr. and Mrs. Candidate elected. Start focusing on the direction you want the country in, and find out how to give people an education that will allow them to at the very least think, but not what to think.
Well, the left-wingers in the 1960s were far-seeing enough, the more radical types, to envision a decades-long march through the institutions, right? And one of their goals was the capture of educational institutions, and that's happened completely. And that's been absolutely abetted by conservatives who tend to get lost in the details. And
I'm going to be fine with your jokes.
You think now you have young...
Also, let's be clear.
Sure about
liberals in the 1960s and educators in general, being liberal is not because we all met in a room somewhere. When I entered, when I was radicalized into leftism, there wasn't like a meeting that was like, all right, guys, let's talk about our education. How's all of our liberal indoctrination teachers going? Is everyone doing good? Are we making sure we're saying the right stuff? Like, this isn't, they tend to think that this is conspiratorial, that it's, teachers and educators just, liberal educators just always, just infiltrated the education system. And that's just simply not true. Simply put, the more educated you are, the more liberal you become. Because conservatism just doesn't hold up to education. It just doesn't. The more you learn, the more that because conservatism relies a lot on common knowledge, on common sense, on common understandings of things, and relies on a very traditionalist and very authoritarian appeal. They a leader says it, and that's as far as they go. That's as far as the thought process go. A leader says it. This is how it is because this is how it is. The hallmarks of conservative education always comes down to what is common knowledge. If there is research that challenges that common knowledge, there's something aberrant. There's something nefarious about that information. It's why they say stuff like, oh, Soros funded school this, Soros funded school that. Or why people like Matt Walsh, when there are studies that refute and spit in the face of his talking points, he just says the studies are bullshit, the science is bullshit, because none of it is about learning new information. Conservatism is about conserving and keeping society in one way for as long as you can, being dragged forward by liberal educators. Like, at the end of the day, more information comes from the value of educational attainment, the value of information, of further information, informational progress is a liberal value. It's not a conservative value. They would end at the Bible if they could. Like, we wouldn't have textbooks. They just stick with the Bible. The Bible's good enough for conservatives, but it's not good enough for everybody else in the world who's like, well, maybe we should have a bit more of an understanding about this.
People who are demoralized and directionless, well, they're never taught anything about how to acquire a direction. We did a study. I used this program I developed called Future Authoring. We did a study where we had 3 studies, actually, where we had university students sit down essentially for 90 minutes. Right. 90 minutes, this was it. And write out a goal, a series of goals for their life, right? Who could they be in 5 years across 7?
This sounds incredibly scientific.
Important dimensions of their life, and where might they be that would be terrible if they didn't get their act together. We dropped their dropout rate 50% and raised their grade point average by 35%. 3 separate studies. So that's all you have to do if you want to motivate young people, is to teach them a bit of visionary discipline and encourage it. And we do the opposite of that. Plus, we terrify them. Trigger warnings. We tell them that everything's dangerous.
You talked about accommodations.
Okay, trigger. Wait. What's wrong with trigger warnings? There are people who have had experiences that if they if you've been if you've been like sexually assaulted, I do think that it's I do think that's positive to have maybe a warning before you show them something that, like, hey, this is going to involve this. If this is like a touchy subject for you, you might want to like back out of this. Like, what I don't understand is what's so triggering to these guys about trigger warnings. I guess they're like constantly so upset about them because it's like, oh, how dare you be warned of the some of the topics that might come up that are a little bit more intense topics ahead of time, just in case you have experiences that might make you that make you vulnerable to these kinds of topics. Like I just don't get what the trigger warning stuff is. Like, people get really I don't want to say upset, but they do get really really concerned about the existence of trigger warnings. But I just think it's being a nice person and letting people know what's going to be coming up, if it's something that's touchy. And then again, I just don't like everything's dangerous. Like, yeah, a lot of older folks are terrified of the world. And because of that, like, it's really weird to me because a lot of people blame Gen Z for this as if it wasn't their parents being helicopter parents. And, not allowing them to go outside and constantly tracking them through their phones and stuff like that. It's like, there's stories I've heard of people where, their parents will track their phones. And if they're out late, their parents will show up to where they are to, be like, get your ass home or whatever. And back in the day, we never, we didn't have that. We went out, we were out until God knows when. And then, we were always told, when the street lights come on, like, head home or whatever. And that was that's all we really needed. But like, you know, my parents didn't know what I was doing all day. I'd be gone for 8-9 hours out of the day, you know, and they have no idea. They don't know if I fucking jumped out of a tree, broke my leg, if I was playing around with my friends and broke somebody else's bones. It's like, whatever. It's like, but these days parents have to know 24/7 where their kids are, because, oh God, their kids are going to get fucking kidnapped or any of this other stuff. And it's just the parenting these days is, and, you know, obviously, like, you know, a lot of people give Gen Z shit for spending all their time on their phones. But again, that's parents' problems. That's the parents' fault. If you're handing your kids your phone because you don't know any other way to entertain them, that's your fault when they don't know how to just kind of exist around other people. And also, that's just how we've socialized a lot of them.
So someone has ADD, they're told.
Yeah.
Dyslexia or other things.
Yeah.
I
In
have
the public
ADHD.
school now, there's a lot of accommodations. I'm going to give you more time for your test.
Yeah.
Or
Sounds
things
about
to
right.
that nature. Have trouble tracking across the line. You think accommodations in many cases don't show progress, can be limiting. Why?
Well, the problem with the accommodation hypothesis.
Oh, by the way, as somebody who did get extra time on tests, let me just say the alternative is just me not passing tests and not passing the grade, which doesn't really do anything for me or for the school, right? Like, what's the trade-off here? If we take any and all of these accommodations away, then what? We just have a bunch of kids who perform poorly, like, and we tell them just suck it up, get better. It's like, no, there's no, like, a lot of times I find that conservatives recognize a problem. Like, they'll say like, oh, some kids have ADHD and they need more time on their tests because their attention just kind of isn't always there, or, you know, they don't, you know, function at the same speed maybe as somebody else, right? And like, the question always is, all right, can we accommodate this person? Can we like accommodate that thing and that you know, that slight what's the word I'm looking for? Inconvenience in society? Yeah, we absolutely can. There's no reason to say that we can't accommodate people for that. But conservatives will sit here and go, nope, we could accommodate it, but we shouldn't, because we shouldn't let people be comfortable with the idea of receiving help or getting cut any kind of slack from anybody, which to me is rather dangerous and kind of belies an disinterest in other people's lives. At the end of the day, these you know, kids with ADHD, people like me, like there is no like just get better at it. This isn't something that you're just gonna get better at. You do get better at managing it, obviously, throughout like your lifespan, but like, should society be holding people back for that? Is that something that we as a society gain from you know, constantly holding our students back? I don't think so. I don't think that's really something that not just isn't positive. I don't think it pays off in the long run. It's just, what do we get out of this? We don't get anything. It's just some people don't get the accommodations, fail a little bit more, and you know, like either fall through the cracks of the system or suck it up and get over it. But like, again, it's just like, there's no reason to even create those two outcomes when we can have everybody pass. We can have everybody, and even then, any test that you take, it's not about like, we're not testing knowledge in terms of your speed in relation to like retaining that knowledge. What we're testing is, do you have that knowledge? If you have to think a little bit longer to remember it, that's not a critique, or that's not, I think, a like valuable metric to determine whether you know or don't know something, or if you've been properly educated. Like, everyone just gets places at different times. It's just kind of how it is. Like, I would always do really poorly in math tests, right? But because I was a much better history student, because I was a better English student, my English and history tests would fly by. I'd be like one of the first people done because I was good at those. And like, I was motivated in a way to get through those because I felt good. But like, math, shit like that. I was never that good at that stuff. So naturally, I'd take longer. I'd like, I'd double check my answers, or maybe I'd go back, I second guess my answers. It's just, this is just how people learn. They need to learn through this stuff. And if we don't allow them, if we can't accommodate them to get through those kind of minor disabilities, then like, what are we going to have? Just a bunch of kids who fail school, who fail, a couple grades, more often. Like, it's just not a positive trade-off. We don't gain anything from this.
Hypothesis is something like, the advantage is, well, you want to do what you can to help people who might have obstacles that could be overcome to learn. That's not unreasonable. But the problem with the accommodation hypothesis is, well, what happens when you have an actual problem to solve? You're not going to be accommodated. You're not going to be accommodated in a workforce that requires genuine competition. Because
why? Okay. And this is the thing. And this is also an underpinning of this mindset. Why is it that every workplace is supposed to be formatted in this kind of worker versus worker competitive competitive environment? Like, why is that the thing that people why is that the format that we have to engage in work in? Because it's not. They'll say like, oh, it needs to be competitive, da da da. No, it doesn't. And this is what capitalists get wrong. And this is what I think this is why I think we have the society we have, because capitalism is something that is a format that encourages and I think only really knows how to look at the world through the lens of competition, through the lens of valuation, basically. Living under capitalism formats you to basically think of everything as competitive, everything as as zero sum, like, and that's just not how the world is. Look at the UPS strike we looked at. Those aren't workers competing against each other to see who can get $25, like a $25 wage, right? What's better? That one guy who outworks everybody and like grind sets all of his UPS packages, does all that shit, right? He gets $25 an hour, maybe, probably not. More like maybe he gets like that 21, 22, but let's say he gets the 25. That's one guy getting a great wage. The alternative is people coming together, collectively bargaining, and now we have 340,000 people getting raises. How is the system of capitalism and competition and all of this anywhere near as effective for offering a better life for more people over broader unionization, over collectivism? It's just not. You can only solve one person's problem with competitiveness. You can solve hundreds of thousands with collectivism. So no, it's just like in the whole like, oh, well, it's not really preparing you for the real world. In the real world, yeah, you're right. In the real world, when they're adults who have, I don't know, gained multiple years of life experience, then we can have them deal with time constraints and everything else that goes into that. But this idea that it's like, oh, we need to start treating kids like they're adults when they're like, kids in elementary school. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's like, no, they're kids. Treat them like kids. Accommodate them because they're kids. Accommodate them while they can get accommodations. Sure, the world isn't going to give them that, but fuck, at least let them get those now. When they go into the real world and they enter into the normal workforce, they'll learn that quickly and they'll have to acclimate to that. But that's not something we should be instituting in like fucking like normal regular ass elementary school. Jesus.
Because if you're accommodated in a workforce that requires genuine competition, you're just going to be taken out. There's no time for that. Right. You might say, well, there should always be time.
This is worker versus worker language,
not
too.
Not if there are important things at stake. Yeah. Well, that's foolish, right? Because when you're making important decisions, you're always balancing one catastrophe against another. You don't have the option that everything's going to turn out. And so the problem with accommodation, well, first of all, it's going to be gamed. And
well, first of all, like, accommodations doesn't mean you're going to pass. It just gives you a fair shot, like, to pass. That doesn't guarantee you to pass. It just offers you an, okay, whatever.
It's being gamed like mad. And second, it gives the person who's being accommodated to the wrong picture of the world to which they're going to adapt. You think about this with parenthood. How should you...
And why is that, right? Like what Jordan what Jordan Peterson is saying is that the world shouldn't accommodate you. But like the question at the heart of this is always why? Why shouldn't we accommodate people? Like I say this when it comes to the when it comes to trans athletes as well. Why shouldn't we? We can accommodate these people. So why the fuck shouldn't we? We can accommodate the disabled. Why? Like we can already do that. Like why can't we accommodate some people with with ADHD, with any of this? It's just this antisocial like I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is for this fucking guy. Because like Jordan Peterson probably understands that like ADHD stuff like that is not just a thing you grow out of. It is like, there is an imbalance in your brain for some of that stuff. So like, and I mean, this is also a guy who's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, one or the other, whatever the fuck. He's a psycho, whatever the fuck, ologist, I don't remember which one. But like, that's one might argue a competitive field, because when you enter into that kind of private practice, you're competing to be like the better, the better of your like peers so that you can make more money. That's a competitive field. This right here, what I'm doing right now, streaming, very, very competitive. But most people aren't doing this or even doing that. Most people are working in regular jobs with other people. And there's no reason why, if we can accommodate the disabled, we should be able to accommodate the evenly mentally slightly disabled or just mentally inconvenient sometimes people. Like, it's just...
Treat your kids. Well, as a mother and father, you should be a proxy for the world. Maybe a slightly more merciful proxy, but basically the message you send your kids about their behavior is the
struggle
same
is
message
good
that the
sort
world
of bullshit
is going to
that
send
you need to struggle as a child.
Otherwise, you're not preparing them for the world.
To be ready
so
for the
maybe
world.
your kid's annoying as hell to you and your wife.
Instead of fixing the fucking world, instead prepare your kids for the hellscape that is capitalism. That's what this is. This is fucking fealty. This is fucking surrender to the system that you already live under. This is why boomers are shit. This is precisely why boomers are shit. Because instead of changing the world, instead of making the world a more hospitable place, the way that their parents and generations before them kept on doing, boomers turned around and said, no, fuck that. We're going to keep the world with us at the center of it. You all better fucking nut up and fucking deal with it. We're not going to make things better. We're not going to improve the world for you. We're not going to do any of the things our parents did for us to make the world amenable to us. What we're going to do is say, fuck that shit. We get ours. And you all just have to grow up, deal with it. Don't be babies. We walked up hills in the snow barefoot to get to school or whatever the fuck. It's such fucking defeatism and bullshit. It's why I hate their fucking generation.
And you don't do anything about it because you think, well, we're all mercy. It's like, that's just fine until your kid has to make a friend or, deal with an adult that's not you, in which case they're going to get slaughtered.
Also, if your kids can't make friends, that's because of your failures as a parent.
If you accommodate people beyond what the environment itself would allow,
if you didn't socialize them properly, that's on you big time.
The world they're going to inhabit. And plus, it can be gamed, and it's being gamed constantly.
Online school, you and your daughter working together.
Yeah.
What should we know, and how do we get it?
Wait, this dude's running an online school? How is that going to fix anything? Kids are already too online.
Well, we've got about 30 courses recorded so far in a studio in Miami. They look very good. They're very professionally produced. We're trying to find the best lecturers in the world. So if you think you're a good lecturer and you want to participate, give that some thought. That's Peterson Academy. We hope we'll be ready to roll in November. We want to make sure that we have the best lectures that we can possibly provide on the most germane topics, and then we're going to ally that with a very stringent testing and accrediting system so that if you are a graduate of this particular institution, the people who hire you will know that you learned what you were aiming at learning and that you did the proper work. And that's extraordinarily important because...
What does that even mean? Like, if I'm a hiring manager and I'm looking at your like resume and I'm like, I see you graduated from the Jordan B. Peterson School for, I don't know, fucking Gen Z, like for future generations improvement or whatever. Like, oh yeah, like, and then I look at this other dude who's like, oh yeah, they went to local community college for a couple years. They did some electives. They did some student organizing. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, oh, you paid Jordan Peterson for lectures that he probably gives for free on YouTube. I already think you're a sucker. Like,
employers need to know that.
Absolutely. Dr. Jordan Peterson, I know you had a few hurdles to clear to get here. I really...
It's... And that's the thing, right? Like, it's all just a reaffirmation of the capitalist competitive market to which most people, I don't think, really want to live in. Most people are fucking tired of having to compete with each other. They just want to live amongst each other. But everything that, everything that these conservatives tell them, or everything that they advocate for, is just further, is just continuing that, that competition between workers. When you're not going to get anything, you beat out your coworker for Employee of the Month. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get $25 in a parking spot. Whoa, your life has fucking changed. Instead of what you could be doing is fucking organizing and getting a real wage increase. With that in mind, I guess, should we... Yeah. Let's do the other Fox News segment that we have. So, I want you to think about this. I brought this up earlier, right? And I clipped this out because I want us to remember it. Make change at a register. Make eye contact. Like I said, we're gonna leave this like here, and I'll bring this back. Make change at a register, work with others, make eye contact, deal with frustration, stay off phones. This is why Gen Z isn't doing so well. And as a millennial, I'm sure a bit of this is meant for me too.
An Alabama mom going viral for her rant about her millennial Gen Z kids.
But not for the reason you might think. She says that she feels helpless as a parent.
Look at those cute
as
kids.
The American dream becomes increasingly difficult for younger generations to attain.
I am so tired of feeling helpless as a parent. Yes, my kids are grown adults. My oldest is 28, my youngest is 25. And I thought by teaching them what I learned, which is you work hard, you get a good job, you're going to get the things in life that you need, right? Worked for me. Why wouldn't it work for them? Because it doesn't. Because the world has changed. Yes, I understand struggling is a part of life. We all struggled. But there's a difference between struggling and drowning.
No kidding.
And keep in mind, this is what Fox News thinks is their big plan. They're like, oh, you can't make change at a register. You can't. This is why you can't buy a house, because you don't make eye contact with people, because you're always on your phone. When this woman, and most likely many millions like her, have kids who do all of these things, and yet still don't get anywhere, still are stuck. Because what? You making change at a register ain't going to do anything to the fucking housing prices. It ain't going to bring the housing prices down any faster than anything else. There's I've mentioned it before. We live in the outskirts, the farthest district, in what is considered like Denver, basically. There is a condo complex fairly close to here in the same kind of area. They're selling a condo. We went to go look at it because we were just kind of bored one day. For a condo, I want to say it wasn't anything crazy. Nothing insane. 2 bedrooms, a condo. They wanted $400,000. $400,000 for this thing. $400,000 on a wage of we probably bring in anywhere between 70 to 80,000 a year between the two of us, and there is no chance we'd be able to afford that. No fucking chance. And these are the kind of housing prices that they want. On the kind of wages where people are lucky. Like I make like $20 an hour, and even that's quickly deteriorated in its usefulness over the last couple of years. And it's just no amount of me taking initiative and not being on my phone and making change at a register correctly is going to change any of those economic factors. But for Fox News, it's not like they don't give a shit about any of this stuff, because all it is them pointing the finger at younger generations and going, haha, fuck you. We got ours. If you just worked harder, you're just all lazy. You're just all stupid. You don't work hard enough, because again, they've bought into this belief that the meritocracy is real, that the hardest workers are the largest earners, and it just isn't. If you can point me, and this is a challenge to any and everyone, if you can point me to the hardest worker you know and confidently tell me that they earn the most for that work, then then maybe I'll reconsider. But I think all of us kind of know. We know that one guy who works so fucking hard, who just, always working, always going that extra 10%. And what did I say earlier? What's he get? He gets $25 and a parking spot for a month.
And Jessica McCabe, who went viral, joins us live. Jessica, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I understand in the aftermath you've been slammed by a lot of Gen Xers who thought that the comments were inappropriate, but your son, who read some of the comments, actually feels like he's less alone. There are a lot of people in the same boat.
Yes, and I think that's one thing that we need to take away from is that it's not 1988 anymore. We have to, as parents, realize that the economy has changed. I understand inflation. Prices always go up, but I think that lately the wages are not keeping up with how big the inflation has gotten, and we have to listen to our children.
We're looking at these beautiful pictures. Gosh, you have gorgeous kids, and it looks like a grandchild there, too. What was your reaction to 11 million people can relate to this and view this? Mm-hmm.
That was a little unexpected, because honestly, the reason why I made the video is because I was so frustrated. I went out yet again with my son to go try to find an apartment he can afford, and we just kept getting backdrops or half the places I felt like should have been condemned that he could afford, and the other half, they were wanting 4 times your rent. They wanted you to show that you can make 4 times that. So it was getting frustrated.
Oh yeah, for anybody who's actually gone apartment hunting, it's fucking disgraceful. Because like half the time they're like, oh yeah, you need to be able to make 3 times the rent for us to rent this to you, which is essentially like barring off the ability to rent places to like poor people or people who like would just edge in to be able to afford it, but they can't afford 3 times that.
But I hear all the other Gen Zs and millennials in my comments saying that they finally feel seen, because I think us as Gen X, we forget that it's not the same as it is now for our kids. And we think, well, we did it, so they should be able to too. And we need to be their advocate. I didn't have kids to watch them suffer their entire life.
Right. And real quick, are your kids going to change careers? What's your advice to them? What have they learned from this?
And look at this fucking idiot, this fucking clown, this fucking, oh God, I hate Killmate. He's so fucking stupid. Over here doing like the, are they changing, what are they looking to do? Do they need to change careers? No! Stop it. Stop with this nonsense. We don't need more fucking lawyers, more fucking doctors, more fucking every other high-paying fucking industry job. Not everybody is a fucking lawyer. Not everybody is a fucking doctor. Not everybody is a fucking financial advisor. Not everybody is any of the highest-paying jobs in this country. It's fucking asinine to sit here. I hate when people do this. Oh, why don't you just like get into a higher-paying industry? Fuck that. How about instead we actually afford people the ability to work in normal jobs? Like, we need kitchen workers. We need cooks. We need fucking teachers. We need civil engineers. We need all of these things. But what? We just don't want to pay them. And you want to know why that is? Because there are capitalists somewhere that have no interest in the public infrastructure, have no interest in people eating good food, have no interest in what's another? No interest in people's education. They have no fucking interest in people's healthcare. They have no interest in people's mental health care. They don't give a shit. None of these companies, none of these corporations, all these fucking corpos all sit here and they give themselves and they give all of the people who are in their industry, or at the very least are in their class, I should say, all of the management people, all of your financial advisors, all of your people who what's the word I'm looking for? Fucking orbit private equity, that orbit private finance, that orbit investment. All of these people make a shit ton of money because they all tell them every single company that they invest in the same fucking thing. You cut corners, you cut wages, you cut staff, and then all the profits rise to the top. That's what you do. You build your factories. You build any of your warehouses. You build any of your infrastructure in poor as fuck neighborhoods so you can pay them poor as fuck wages so they can make you millions upon billions while you give them shit. That is how this game works. And the idea that what if we just had people moved into better higher paying careers? It's fucking stupid. We can only have so many of those types of people. We cannot bloat the management class because eventually the management class will just gatekeep and shut people out. And then what? Not everyone can be a fucking manager. Some people need to be cooks. At the end of the day, some people need to do, you need people to work at McDonald's. You need people to work at your local retail store. You need people to pack the mail. You need people to drive the trucks. You need people to do all of these low value positions, even though the accumulation of all of that value accounts for billions of dollars of actual value creation. Each one of individual working class people, every one of them, all is one cog in a enormous billion-dollar machine. Meanwhile, they're all paid garbage fucking wages, while the people who, sign a few contracts, who oversee some finance, they're the ones who get paid the actual money, even though their wealth creation, their value creation is 1 fucking billionth what workers create. It's fucking nonsense. This is the same bullshit. This is the exact same mindset that Jordan Peterson buys into. And it's why both of them will do nothing to fix the economy. Because they both just say, be more competitive. Be more, you just need to and don't try to create a world where everybody can get by, where everybody is afforded a livable wage, where everybody's what's the word I'm looking for? Quality of life goes up. No. Don't worry about that. You worry about you, because that's what this entire game is about. Oh, that shit fucking grinds my gears. Oh, you fucking, not everyone can be a fucking Fox News dipshit anchor with a bad tie and a bad haircut, asshole.
Jessica.
It is frustrating because he went to college, and I understand that most places want experience, even though you had a college degree. So the first job that he got right out of college was only paying $19 an hour. Now, that's better than minimum wage, but even since being there, he's gotten a raise, another $22 an hour. That used to be a good amount when I was growing up.
Me too.
$22 an hour should let you live, and how come it doesn't?
Well, we've got your video on foxandfriends.com. Jessica, thank you very much for joining us live.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, no wonder that. Yeah, look at Kilmeade's fucking face over here. Fucking despises this woman, and there's a reason why they don't let her keep going, because they want to cash in on working class Gen X mom, but they certainly don't want to answer or even explain any of the actual economics that she's talking about. They have no interest in it, and there's a reason why I said the theme for the fun half today is kind of the understanding that Americans are finally coming around to. That the economy just doesn't work for them. It's just not something that's geared or formatted towards their needs. And the problem with that is they're most of the people. Why the fuck do we have an economy that's geared towards the top 25 to 30% of the country? No, the economy should be geared and formatted towards the majority, the overwhelming majority of people in this country. who are working like small time working class jobs, not this fucking management, fucking small business people bullshit owner nonsense. Like, ridiculous. God damn it. I'm so shit. My nose is itchy too. I fucking hate that shit. I hate the just get a better job forehead bullshit. Because it's just like, and like, talk to anybody. These are the exact same type of people who will say things like, oh, you know, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And then do everything they possibly can to make sure that nobody gets to live that life. That instead, every day you work in a place that you fucking can't stand. Because they don't want you to be powerful. They don't want people to follow their passions. At the end of the day, the real dividing line, the real ideological and value assessment that socialism makes versus capitalism is around passion. What capitalism is interested in is tapping into people's competitive nature. What socialism is looking to tap into is people's passion. That's the real, I think, ideological difference at the heart of both of these ideologies. And for damn sure, we have lived with this competitive value system for far too long. We've lived under this greed is good mantra for far too long. And where has it gotten us? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And all the rich ever have to say to any of us are work harder, or get better jobs, instead of the actual thing that we need to be doing, which is organizing and demanding for a better future for ourselves and for our younger generation. Now that I'm all irritated and shit, let's go take a look at Tim Pool. So suicides in the U.S. have apparently hit an all-time high. I haven't really seen much of this, but I have an assumption that take everything that this woman talked about and maybe some of what I've mentioned, by the way. Take a little bit of this and keep in mind, let's kind of hear what Tim Pool's explanation is for this feeling that people are at that are leading them to unalive themselves at record numbers.
Daily Mail reports suicides hit record high last year when nearly 50,000 Americans took their own lives. CDC report revealed that suicides in the U.S. are at an all-time high. I think a large component of this is what we see in cities. Obviously, COVID, I think, destroyed a lot of people, the lockdowns and all that stuff. But you come out to the middle of nowhere.
We were stuffing stacks of people in the backs of trucks, in the back of freezer trucks, because we couldn't house the number of dead bodies in hospitals. I have friends that worked in hospitals during COVID. These stories that they told me were fucking horrific. Were fucking like fucking Silent Hill type shit. Yeah, no shit. People were probably a bit disturbed after their experiences with COVID.
And what do you have? Fresh running water. Granted, you don't want to drink wild stuff. Right? You got to clean it and all that stuff. But we have a well. We have a well water with a filtration system. So there's no gunk. There's no weird chemicals. There's no chlorine. I'm pretty sure we have no chlorine. It's like a multi-stage filter with a UV light to clean it and kill the bacteria. No fluoride added. Just regular old well water. And we have the river is right down the road. Fresh fruit growing all across the property. It's ridiculous. Every month there's some new kind of fruit to eat, and we didn't even put it there. And you can even eat the leaves. Nobody wants to, but you can. A lot of grape leaves. We got so much grape.
Am I crazy? Did I like fall into an alternate universe for a bit? What the fuck are we talking about?
Where? And what do you have? Fresh running water. What we see in cities. Obviously, COVID, I think, destroyed a lot of people.
Cities,
the
right?
Lockdowns and all that stuff. But you come out to the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And what do you have? Fresh running water. Granted,
fresh running water. Oh yeah, fresh. Why don't you ask the people in fucking Michigan about fresh running water?
You don't want to drink wild stuff. Right? You got to clean it and all that stuff. But we have a well. We have a well water with a filtration system. So there's no gunk. Nice. There's no weird chemical.
Wow, that's nice. Rich guy has a bunch of resources to ensure that he has a sustainable and healthy water source. Wow, Tim.
chemicals. There's no chlorine. I'm pretty sure we have no chlorine. It's like a multi-stage filter with a UV light to clean it and kill the bacteria. No fluoride added. Just regular old well water.
Dude,
And
if you don't have fluoride in
we
your
have the
water,
rivers
you're
right
not
down the
drinking
road.
real water.
Fresh fruit growing all across the property. It's ridiculous. Every month there's.
Oh my God, this fucking rich prick is really going on and being like, look at this. We've got an entire fucking farm on my multiple acre compound that I paid by telling people that Marxism bad or whatever. Like, oh man, I don't know if I'll make it through this one. This is already fucking insulting. People are committing suicide in Tim Pool's over here like, oh yeah, like we have fresh running water. We have like fresh produce sourced locally from my farm. Like,
there's some new kind of fruit to eat.
Oh my
we
God.
didn't even put it there. And you can even eat the leaves. Nobody wants to, but you can. A lot of the grape leaves. We got so much grape.
Oh, we could wrap stuff with grape
you could
leaves.
wrap them and soak them. Yeah,
What
Chuck
the
was talking
fuck
about
is
doing that.
happening?
So we're out here, and it's like a Disney fairy tale. Little animals run.
Does he think? Wait a second. Does he think that this is just how everybody lives out in like the rural areas of the country? Does he not understand that everybody who lives in like rural Appalachia isn't fucking wealthy and have a compound that they can, sustainably source water and produce from? Like, oh my God.
Running about with deer on the front
The
yard.
picturesque mountains in the forefront with the clean air.
Yep. You walk out, you look outside, you see clean air, you see mist rising. There's wild turkeys in the front.
It's almost like it's
back in the day.
It's almost like he's
I
rich.
mentioned this, they
Oh
have
my
the
God.
guns in the kitchen, the muskets. And
Oh
I
my
asked
God.
the guy, like, what's the musket for? And they're like, oh, when they're cooking dinner, they open the back door, shoot a rodent, throw the rodent in the stew. And I'm like, wow, that's how they lived. It's like, you didn't even need to go hunt. You just like open the door and you wait and you're like, there we go, rabbit, bang. So we have wild turkeys in front of the house all the time.
I'm going to be fine
We
with your
don't do
jokes.
this, but we could literally just.
But I'm not
Why
sure
do you think
about
you have
dark
wild
Brandon.
turkeys, you fucking idiot? Oh my God. Yeah, you have rabbits and all the rest of it if you have a farm. Do you know how many people have the ability to have farms? What percentage of the U.S.?
Capture. Kill one anyone. We have deer all over the place. There's too
I
many
don't-
deer,
I
actually.
don't know. I don't know if I can
hope,
do it.
Like, the deer need to be
This
killed.
is-
I don't want to be a dick, but there's like 25 of them, and there's poop everywhere, and they're just eating too much.
What
Some
it-
people go out and they kill them, but you could just eat the deer. It's just like the food is
Yeah, no shit. That's usually what fucking hunter.
right there. In the cities, they use all this crazy chemicals. People's heads
God.
are whacked. They're on SSRIs. They live in these concrete blocks that smell like sour milk.
Yeah, that brake dust coming out of the cars.
I was gonna say all the car emissions that they walk through to get from tiny apartment building to the tiny
24/7
office.
because it goes into your apartments too.
It's almost like being rich and moving out into the sticks and building a compound is preferable than being poor and having to live in the shit quality apartments that our economic system incentivizes by the investment opportunities that is housing. God damn it. I don't know if I can do this. I genuinely don't know if I can do this. This is infuriating right now. Holy shit. Yes, Tim, being rich and moving into a compound in the middle of West Virginia is preferable than being poor and living in a city. Like no fucking shit. Why don't you go ask what poor people like living, what it's like living in poor Appalachia, where you don't have a shit ton of money so you can get fresh running water and fresh clean produce. Why don't you go do that? Go ask the people who actually are from that region, from the areas in which all industry was stripped of when, in the 1980s and 90s. Why don't you go and ask them how they're doing? How they like living near the mountains with the mist and the deer, even though they can hardly afford their mortgage anymore. Nobody lives in their towns anymore. Their infrastructure's falling apart. Their water's corrupted. Their produce is probably also not looking great either. They don't have farms. Like, oh, it's almost like resources makes your lives better. Like, fucking geez. Fucking key to the universe.
Living in a sewer.
Is it like that in London too? You're from outside of London?
Yeah, but I don't really spend much time there. But it is. I mean, the pollution is really, really bad. But you know, on the flip side, they're trying to push the climate change thing. So they're putting plant pots in the middle of roads to stop drivers going into central London. They're charging people every single day.
Yes, do it. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't. It. Yeah. Wait, you're gonna bitch about the fucking pollution, and then when they enact like incentives, and then when they build incentive structures that are there to disincentivize the accumulation, or at the very least the act of what am I looking for? Like they finally pass some fucking regulations that aren't even like you're not allowed to drive cars anymore. It's just, hey, if you drive cars, just understand that there's a cost associated with that, so that we can kind of get people to take it easy on the transport and everything else. Like, what do you fucking want? You want to bitch about the fucking problem, and then when there's a solution that isn't even like, I don't know, like the most maximalist authoritarian solution, then you're like, oh well, now it costs people like so much money to go and now it costs me all this money to go and drive my car and pollute the airwaves all the time. Well, what do you want? You want the airwaves, or you don't want the airwaves to pollute, you dumb fuck. Like, Jesus fucking H Christ. Do you want the air to be polluted, or do you not want it to be polluted? What do you want them to do? Fucking roll in an enormous fucking Scotland-sized fan and just all of the fucking pollution over to the Eastern Europe or into the ocean or something? You fucking moron. What do you think is gonna happen? Like, oh man, like I the stupidity on display here. Oh my God, we are 2 minutes in. This video is 15 minutes long. We're not going to make it through this. I'm telling you that right now. We're not making it through it.
About $15 just to drive into central London. So that's even delivery drivers, truck drivers. So
also, by the way, I'm just going to point out, I'm going to be a fucking, I'm going to be a catty bitch right now. But I don't want to hear Ollie London talk to me when he's got his fucking gender madness book here with like fucking 18 layers of goddamn Photoshop. Like, shut the fuck up with this. Jesus Christ. Who the fuck even is this guy? This dude's like some fucking idiot TikTok influencer and now has some kind of understanding of fucking climate science. Fuck off.
So there's good and bad things about that. You know, I think it is a tough life though when people are going from the office, 9 to 5, they go straight to the house and they've got a tiny apartment. And for a 1-bedroom apartment in London, it's like $1,200, $1,300. So it's
that's actually
conditions
not
a bit like
bad
New
at all
York. So
compared to the United
for
States.
people to live, like Tim was saying, it's much better. People are happier and healthier if they're living in the country.
Assuming that he's doing the dollar conversion, that it's actually $1,200 to live in London, that is fucking amazing. Especially like $1,200 to live in London. Fuck, I'd pay that price. I pay $1,200 to live outside of Denver. Like, the fuck? And like, if you go into Denver, it's not $1,200 to live in Denver. It's $2,000. Like,
besides, I spend so much time outdoors, and it's so much nicer. It's
you definitely seem like
you
somebody
feel
who
that
spent
fresh
time
air and you
outdoors,
feel good,
Ollie.
and, you appreciate things. Like if you grow your own vegetables, you appreciate that taste. You don't think, oh, I can just buy what I want. It's consumption. It's you actually enjoy life a bit more.
Yeah. Here's a crazy thing. They have a racial breakdown and an age breakdown. It is mostly millennial white people who are committing suicide.
Oh my gosh.
Multi-racial.
Oh my God, it's mostly millennial white people. Could it possibly be that white people are a majority of the population? Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Racial people are very low. I love this. But what you need to understand is that white people are the majority of the population. Okay. So percentage is what matters the most. And I think, as percentage change, you need to break down the amount of suicides by race, but by percentage of population. So it looks like white people are committing tremendous amounts of suicide, but it's actually fairly comparable. If you look at Black or African, they're about 10% of
at
least,
population,
and that's
at least you contextualize
so it. Seems
it.
Statistically average suicide across all racial backgrounds. But then you do notice that from 25 to 64, substantially more suicides, with the highest demographic being 25 to 44, which is millennial into
shit.
Gen X. It's freaky stuff, man.
So, okay, let's keep in mind, what are the conservative solutions to this? What are they? Work harder, get a better career. No, seriously. What are the conservative solutions to any of this. Oh, if only we all could agree on abortion, then everyone would no, fucking that's not none of there isn't anything. The Republican Party in the United States does not run on economics. And the reason for that is simple. They have no interest in changing the economic system. They are fine with these numbers. They have no fucking interest in changing the system in which people live in. What Ollie London was describing there was late stage capitalism, where you go to work, you come home, you don't have any money to go out, so you just go on maybe your PlayStation, your Xbox, you hang out on the internet with your friends, surrounded by ads, surrounded by your data being siphoned and sold, sold across like a million different information brokers. That is the future that every single millennial and Gen Zer has to look forward to. You go to work, maybe you grab some lunch, you come home, you can't afford to go out, so you get online, you play some video games, they sell the data while you do that. You go to sleep, you go to work, you come home, you play video games, they sell your data. You go to sleep, you wake up, you go to work, you come home, over and over and over and over and over again. And they wonder why most young people have absolutely no interest in this format, in this kind of societal relationship. Absolutely none. Yeah, no, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. We were already there. Let me not pretend that we're not. But this is the future that people have to look forward to. And it's a wonder why, nobody wants this. Everyone's like, this is fucking miserable. This is awful. I hate everything about this. And there's a reason for that. But what are the solutions for conservatives? Work harder, fucking be on your phone. That's fucking stupid. Thanks, Crash. I appreciate that. Anyway, let's keep going. Fuck Christ. Blood pressure's rising by the moment.
Whatever's causing this, people are having a breakdown. I think purpose matters. I think we could look at a lot of the issues that are causing something like this, and they're just directly correlated with cities. No community, no neighbors, no purpose, living in pollution and garbage, and running back and forth. It feels, I don't know, man. It just feels like the dark side.
And they can never get up the ladder. They're stuck in those jobs for their whole life. They're just surviving, basically, paying their bills. And it's really tough. And what's sad as well, most of these people likely have mental health struggles. And then you've got Canada that's legalizing euthanasia, including for people with mental health. So how many more people are going to feel...
What? Legal? What? Why are we talking about euthanasia? Okay, but we're not stopping for this.
So hopeless that they're going to take their lives, instead of, sending all this money to different countries, another 24 billion to Ukraine, America should be investing in
another 24 billion to Ukraine. I don't know. Probably the only people who have it worse than us, who are living in under this capitalist malaise, are, I don't know, the people getting bombed and fucking invaded. That's really the only group of people that I'm like, all right, that might be a little bit worse. That maybe just a little bit. They have, when they're done, when Ukraine is done defending itself, they also get to join the rest of the world in being miserable. But, for now, they do have it just a shade worse. Getting fucking drone striked or whatever, or getting your city shelled constantly. I would say it's a bit worse than than what I described. Just barely.
Mental health, and let's help these people. We shouldn't be, pushing people to, feel that they've got no chance in life. Let's actually help them and support them with mental health.
I think it was someone was just saying we should reopen mental facilities. Was it Vivek?
Vivek,
you guys remember?
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Or we could just reformat society
in the early 80s, and that was a big...
Put them in jails instead.
Yeah, and now we have this mental health crisis that just began right when that big shutdown happened. So maybe it's time to... But
it's almost like once you shut down the ability for people to seek mental health care, it's almost like that will exacerbate the number of people. No shit, thanks Reagan, as usual.
They were so horrible. So many people suffered so horribly in a lot of those places that was the justification for shutting them down. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it right or do something.
It also opens the door to... You are a political dissident, so the government says...
They did in the U.S., sadly.
Yeah,
in a lot of places in the U.S.
card. Well, it's not federally legal, so off to the mental facility with you.
And you can't get out.
With armed guards, yeah.
With regular jails.
And a lot of that industrial work went to fucking China. And how is the living standards in China? Kind of some fucking shit too. Unfortunately, our systems are just... we have a global economic system that's just not centered around people's happiness and people's passions. It's just there. Like we've turned so much. We've turned so much into cogs in the machine that now it's just, oh yeah, now you're just, you go to your little tiny micro apartment in China too. It's really no different. People talk about like, people talk about the industrial like revolution that like China's gone under, but all they've really done is done what we do here in the US, but better. And that's subjugate workers under not great wages. Their standard of living has gone down precipitously. They don't really live in a democracy. They just go to work, they come home, they go to work, they come home, they play video games, and that's really it. Again, like they have no different relationship than we do.
So you'll get a term, and then you get out. Maybe you'll get out with good behavior, you get out early. But with mental facilities, and they determine whether you get out or don't.
I think a lot of these people are maybe not a lot, but returning veterans from the war in the Middle East, wars in the Middle East. When you come back and you realize, like, wait, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Wait, Osama bin Laden. We didn't go into Afghanistan for Osama bin Laden. I thought I just spent 6 to 8 years of my life willing to kill and seeing people get like.
And people hate me and look down on me and think that I'm bad for having been in the military. I mean, like, veteran suicide is serious and is a part of it. I think part of it is also.
Let me also say, people will say like, oh, societal, when people are mean to veterans, that's the thing that like sends them into those kind of like episodes. I don't really think that we have strong data to back that up. I feel like if you ask veterans, as much as there is a like history of people being really shitty to veterans, I feel like the fact that the VA has been continually like underfunded and the resources for it have never been what they actually needed. I'm pretty sure that impacts veterans a lot more than just if people are not super appreciative of troops, even though I don't think that's Vietnam was the last time I feel like we really saw this antipathy towards soldiers. Most Americans aren't really what's the word I'm looking for? Aren't spiteful of like Iraq war veterans, because most Americans think that they needlessly went over and died. Most Americans are anti-Iraq war, but not soldiers, because they understand that soldiers went over there and wasted their time. So I don't even know what she's talking about.
Social media. I mean, it's something that we see particularly among young people, anywhere from 15 to 35. You're seeing an increase in anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation.
Yes. I thought you were talking about military.
There might be a lot of
anti-military
sentiment.
sentiment.
I think ultimately, we have bred.
Which anti-military sentiment is not the same thing as anti-troops. That's not the same thing. Military personnel and like the decision making at the military-industrial complex is very different. Young people hate the military-industrial complex. I don't think there's that same antipathy towards individual troops.
We have raised young people in a culture of hopelessness, and you must be reminded that every day if you're working a job that you don't like in a city where you feel like no one knows you, and you go home and you lie in bed and look on your phone for hours and hours and hours, and you feel like you're not getting the same amount of likes as someone else, and why aren't you doing more with your life? And that despair is
You remember what I said about competitive nature? About how the only thing, like the thing that we center, that they center, that conservatives center the economy and everything else around, is tapping into the competitive nature of people. Like, this is what I mean. Like, all it is they've turned like, they've turned Instagram, they've turned social media into a competition.
Terrible, where I think we need to have a culture that measures success not by online presence, but in the connections you have in real life.
I think if you look at this data, there's a really easy way to a really
literally
easy
doesn't
bit of
mean
data
anything
to show what's causing this. You can see that males are 3 times more likely, or 3 or 4 times more likely to commit suicide than females. So I think a large component of this is telling men they're evil, they are bad, they are wrong. No matter, I love
this is always cope. It'll always be cope. I'm not really gonna go into this much. Nobody, like, the idea that there are certainly people who are like misandrous. There isn't we're not going to pretend here that there aren't misandrist individuals out there, but the idea that society tells men that they are evil or they are bad or whatever is just right-wing cope. The most you're going to see, mainly because and you know this because they had such a problem, I remember, with what is it? With toxic masculinity. Like, Republicans, conservatives, online especially, got so up in arms when toxic masculinity became a term that was a lot more widely used. Even though, toxic masculinity is just trying to get guys, men primarily, to interrogate the negative elements of their their masculinity, of the way that they conceptualize their masculinity, which, by the way, is a good thing. You should want to do that, because you interrogating the way you are, the way you think, the way that you act around people, and the way that you present yourself is going to, I think, pay off in dividends later on, because you're not going to have this format for life that doesn't actually comport with your values. So many men are told and believe that they need to be strong, that they need to be a certain kind of man, but always measuring yourself to an ideal that you don't even fit into yourself will always make you more miserable. But conservatives had to turn toxic masculinity into a man-hating term, even though all toxic masculinity is, again, attempting to do is interrogate the negative and toxic elements of masculinity. Not that all masculinity or all men are evil. It's just cope. It's just all that ever ends up being is a willful misunderstanding, or I guess misinterpretation of the actual goal of interrogating masculinity. They don't want you to interrogate masculinity. They just want you to uphold the standard that we've always lived by, even though the standard is what has been making you miserable the entire time.
There was this article that talked about the glass cliff. It was like Linda Yaccarino is appointed to the board of X right when the company's about to implode. This is the glass cliff. And I'm like, man, you got a glass floor, you got a glass ceiling, you got glass walls, you got a glass cliff. Ladies be living in a big glass room. Is that it?
Don't throw stones.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And so these people, they be doing nothing but...
Wait. Does he not understand what the glass cliff means? Wait, does he really not understand what the glass cliff means? Now, okay, I've never heard that term, but isn't it kind of obvious that Linda Yaccarino she's not breaking the glass ceiling that by becoming a woman CEO, because isn't that if you're a woman in the workforce and business especially, right? You want to become the CEO, you want to become the big head honcho. That's you breaking the glass ceiling is you ascending past what generally would be where your post stops. The idea that woman CEO, you break that glass ceiling for yourself when you get there. The reason why it's a glass cliff for Linda Yaccarino is because she's tied to X. She's becoming the CEO of this joke of a fucking platform now that's lost what I think 30% of its value of its valuation, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look up the exact number. But Twitter is not doing very well, and she's clearly been put in the role to basically see it fall off a cliff. That's the whole idea. It's not whatever. Guy in the box. I recommend we hear more of the beanie guy than the guy in glasses. Hey, whoa. Sensible Center, how dare you? You like Beanie Man over Hat Man? Hats are superior to beanies. Let's be very clear about this. Don't get yourself banned, my friend.
Throwing stones. And so I'm like, no matter what happens to a woman in the workplace, it is the fault of patriarchy and men.
You better not throw stones.
And I'm just dude, come on.
You're going to find yourself on a glass floor.
Elon Musk hired who he thought was the best person for the job. We were very critical of Yaccarino, I think is her name, right? Because she was a World Economic Forum individual. She's not being tossed off the glass cliff. She was given a prestigious position. You give a woman an executive position, well, it's the glass cliff to throw off the cliff.
Yeah.
You don't give it to her.
He doesn't get it. It's a cliff because it's a failing company. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, it's the glass ceiling. You give her a mid-tier job, and they say, "Well, that's the glass floor. Women are thrown out there because they're eye candy." Oh, just spare me, dude.
Well, and with Yacarino, like them being like, they hired her right as the company was about to go downhill. Like, are you guys saying she's not capable of turning it around?
Yes.
Like, are you saying that you think she's not qualified for the job she was given? Like, are you sort of showing us what's actually happening here? I think there is such a weird conversation where women have to be protected at all costs because they can never think that maybe a man would have been better for their position, when ultimately we know that genders are...
What? Oh my God. I'm sorry. Okay. I gotta apologize. I got distracted because I got a wrestling headline and I looked away. What the fuck are they talking about? What?
Yes.
Are you saying that
Hit me
you
with
think
that
she's
again.
not qualified for the job she was given? Like, are you sort of showing us what's actually happening here? I think...
No. Oh, I can't. No, come on. They just don't, no, I can't explain this. This is obvious. It's not a glass ceiling. It's a glass cliff because the company is some trash and she's moving up to just fucking watch the company burn to the ground. It's like if you became the CEO of like the Hindenburg right before it took off. Anyway.
There is such a weird conversation where
Sensible Center, you would
women
like
have
Elon,
to be
wouldn't
protected
you?
at all costs because they
Doesn't
can
help that
never
Elon
think
Musk
that
doesn't vet his
maybe a
employees,
man
his
would have been better for their position, when ultimately we know that genders are function differently. I mean, it goes right down. You can study newborn babies and see a difference in the way their brains naturally developed. You can't tell me a newborn baby
Post on
has been
X even.
socialized at all.
Yeah, isn't like Elon, isn't fucking Twitter like just rampant with bots now because they don't have the team that was normally on there?
All. We know there are extreme differences, and instead of having a society that prepares people to pursue things that fall along those lines, we're saying constantly like something's oppressing you, something's bad. Actually, you're the problem. Actually, you need to stop the way you are and conform to what we want.
Yeah.
It's just toxic.
I think divorce is another one. I was just watching Soft White Underbelly on YouTube. Highly recommend.
Sensible Center, I'm gonna ask, do you have a blue check? I'm kind of curious. I want to meet a blue checker one of these days.
Recommend the one with the divorce attorney that is just recently came out a few days ago, and he was saying that like in divorce proceedings,
okay, I'm
the
gonna stop
guy
reading
tends to get the raw
wrestling
end of
headlines.
the stick. It's like if the guy cheats on the girl, the guy's trash. He's a piece of shit, junk. If the girl cheats on the guy probably wasn't doing enough to support her. So
what? Oh, okay. No. Okay. Does that happen? Okay, let's stick a flag in the moon right fucking now. Let's do this right now for this platform, for this show, for this channel, for me. If you are a guy, you cheat on your girlfriend, piece of shit. If you are a girl, cheat on your boyfriend, piece of shit. We are not doing this like whatever he's talking about. We're not doing this here. Let's get that really clear right now. I can't stand that shit. It's fucking stupid. I said earlier, they're a misandrist, absolutely, the same way they're a misogynist. I'm not one of these people who thinks that power dynamics preclude people from being either, misogynist or misandrist or racist or any other thing. Anybody of any group can obviously be a piece of shit no matter what. Let's just get that clear. Power dynamics only come into factors when we're talking about like legislation, when we're talking about like macro impacts. Individuals, pieces of shit. Just get that really clear. I don't want anybody to think that I'm like one of the people he's talking about. That's fucking ridiculous. I hate that shit. It's so fucking stupid. I've seen people do that too, where they're like, oh, but what did the guy do? It's like, no, fuck that. No, stop that. Stop that right now. Stop with that.
She had to go.
They're more likely to lose custody of their children. I mean, it's brutal.
So to be 18 or 16, I mean, was this around you? This like men are bad?
Wait, what are you talking about? Bro, your side glorifies simping for I was like a simping of thoughts? OnlyFans? What's wrong with OnlyFans? That's more cringe than $8 per month for Twitter Blue. You have to admit that at least. I don't pay for either of those things though. Wait, what's wrong? Wait. Twitter Blue doesn't get you anything. Twitter Blue, you get a check mark and you get privilege. You're like Twitter Blue, you're literally like paying to win. But like for speech on Twitter, it's literally pay to win. It's pay to win on Twitter. It's like, no. Let's see. What is this? And then like like that to me is kind of sad. If you're paying for OnlyFans, I mean, it's sex work. I don't really care that much, because at the end of the day, you're paying for like labor, right? Like somebody, let's take I don't know who's on OnlyFans. I don't have a deep awareness of OnlyFans. If I want to watch porn, I just watch free porn like a normal person. But I'm trying to think, like, what who's like an OnlyFans person? Like who's an OnlyFans? Give me an OnlyFans person. I don't know OnlyFans people. Give me like somebody to somebody to format this around. Whoever you think is like the worst OnlyFans person. Sim detected. I mean, that is labor also. Like, modeling is labor. And also, like, people pay Tim Pool to talk about politics. You know, like, one day I hope people pay me for doing what I do on here. That's still work. I mean, I don't get what the like simp thing is. I suppose I just like, who cares? Like, if people pay for that, I suppose you're getting access to stuff. I just don't really see what the big problem. People are selling products. Are you not in favor of free market? Okay, taking a photo of your butthole isn't labor. I don't. Are people paying for? Okay, so are the top people on OnlyFans just taking like what's the word I'm looking for? Like just snapping a picture of their genitals and then that's it? I don't think that's how OnlyFans works. I don't know, but I don't think that's how you're going to be successful. Like, you're usually successful if you're doing like modeling, if you're doing, you know, kind of more, you know what it is? You know, I just thought about, you know what it kind of is? It's like paying for Playboy back in the day. Do people remember Playboy? It's like a magazine. You pay to see titties in a magazine. You know, maybe there's some articles that you can scapegoat to say that you read. You know, I'm sure you've heard oh yeah, I paid for Playboy for the articles. Like, that's a thing. I don't really see much of a difference between those two things. You're paying for a product. You know, you're not really getting anything out of it. You're getting like a product, but that's kind of all you're getting. You're getting somebody's photos. You know, if they do a photo shoot, obviously there's lighting. There's quite a lot of other things. And I know OnlyFans people do OnlyFans for other things. It's not all sexual, but I know a big portion of it is. But yeah, sex sells. What Elon is selling is literally privileged speech. I don't know. I just find that to be, I feel like if you're insecure about women, right? If you are like not really good around women and you pay for like an OnlyFans account or a subscription or whatever, and like you get some photos from some celebrity, maybe, you know, they're a bit saucy, you know, I think that's kind of like, you know, that's not great. I don't love that. I would prefer you be you know, more secure in your ability to speak to women and interact with women, certainly. But like, if you're asking me which I hold a little bit like between that and being so insecure about like your speech, about the opinions that you share, that you are willing to fork over $8 for somebody like Elon Musk to privilege your speech because you know that you can't win in a marketplace of ideas, I actually think that that's like kind of sadder. That's like just a shade more pathetic to me, that you're so unconfident in your own speech, as opposed, because like I feel like everybody I feel like has the experience, or at the very least has experienced like insecurity around women, or most guys I should say at least. And like, you know, there's like, you know, that kind of like, oh man, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know what the demographics are for people who pay for OnlyFans. Again, maybe it's on the younger side. I'm not really sure. But if you're like a younger guy, maybe you're like, oh, I'm really insecure. I'm really not good with women. This, you know, it gives me something. Like, yeah, again, that's not great. But if you can't even like defend your opinions, you have to have this again, privileging of those opinions. I hold less respect for that, I guess. Let's see. Okay, let me find that drug dealers also sell a product. Yeah, I also think people have a right to buy drugs. I'm pretty what's the word? Lenient when it comes to drug use. Benefit society. I don't think all products have to benefit society. I think a value assessment on everything isn't really necessary. Only under capitalism do you need to have like something that always benefits society. Sometimes just benefiting a few people is good enough for me. Vast majority of women doing OnlyFans aren't successful. Yeah. All they end up doing is humiliating themselves in the long run. It's degrading. I kind of think that that's their assessment to make. That's not really your place. I mean, you can have that opinion. I don't think you're precluded from having that opinion, but I also don't really think what's it called? If they don't find it humiliating, like I don't get what's humiliating about it. What, you get some saucy pictures, you look good, people are willing to pay you. I don't get what's humiliating about that. Not at all. In terms of degrading themselves, that's just I don't know. I just disagree. I don't really find sex to be that taboo. That might just be the European inside of me, even though I have no European ears. Love OnlyFans women, they're great. Yeah, see, Crimson gets it. Mixed bag. Demographics do lean towards younger men. That's what I thought. I thought, like, that's kind of the sense I get. It would probably be younger men. Anyway, let's finish this up.
Why you feel like I don't want to be, or I don't feel right as a guy? Like,
so it wasn't like it is now when, the patriarchy is constantly mocked.
Okay, sorry. We're going to go back just to kind of get
came out a few days ago. And he was saying that, like, in divorce proceedings, the guy tends to get the raw end of the stick. It's like if the guy cheats on the girl, the guy's trash. He's a piece of shit, junk. If the girl cheats on the guy probably wasn't doing enough to support her.
Do I need to say that it's the patriarchy, or do you all understand this? I don't think I need to say it. It's obviously the patriarchy.
So she had to go.
They're more likely to lose custody of their children. I mean, it's brutal.
So to be 18 or 16, I mean, was this around you? This like men are bad? Is that part of why you feel like I don't want to be, or I don't feel right as a guy? Like,
so it wasn't like it is now when the patriarchy is constantly mocked, and you saw the Barbie movie. That was kind of.
Wait. Am I crazy? Ollie London isn't transgender. What? Yeah, Ollie London isn't transgender. They did like the thing where they wanted to look like Jimin, I think, from BTS. But they okay.
Mocking men.
They wanted to be fucking Asian.
So you saw the Barbie movie mocking men, but it wasn't around then. But I had a kind of difficult relationship with my dad. He was very masculine. He was trying to get me to do all these outdoor things, and I didn't get on with him. So I was trying to reject that. So that was part of the reason why I became more feminine and more like a girl and stuff. But I think nowadays we're really seeing this division.
Again, okay, we're just moving
a breakdown of masculinity, because it's very hard to find, just normal masculine guys now, right? Because we're having this society that's emasculating men. And again, the Barbie movie, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was cool. I love, all the colors and the outfits and stuff. But I think it was mocking men and trying to make men look bad and tell women, you don't need a man, you don't need to settle down. And they even mock the pregnant.
Oh my goodness, let us consider the social consequences of their actions. Sounds impossible. Oh my God, sensible center. You okay. Let's see. Also Crimson based. This type of reasoning you espouse is common leftist bullshit, okay? How does it affect you personally? Shit tier logic when we have a generation of women being told they can just become e-whores. This has a cascading effect on the rest of society. For example, a record number of men are sexually inactive and remain virgins longer than the previous generations. Less procreation equals less kids. Kids equals less ability to sustain the labor market. Okay. So let's interrogate this just a little bit. So if we're going to do the, how does this affect you personally? Well, I'm assuming it kind of, you seem pretty sensible, center. Are you a virgin? You seem pretty dedicated to this line of thinking. Second of all, this is true. There are cascading effects to women having a bit more freedom. What they are, should men kind of grow up a little bit and maybe, I don't know, evolve past this like 1950s fucking archaic format for masculinity? Yeah. The problem we have, especially these days, is that there are men in older generations who have this need, this desire. They are for whatever reason, driven to fucking continually promote this format of masculinity that is not, what's the word I'm looking for? That is not applicable to modern society. They have this fucking ancient conception of masculinity, of what men are supposed to be, what men are supposed to do. That is the actual problem. And because of that format, because of that kind of socialization and programming, you have all of these guys who have an inability to communicate and court women in 2023. Most guys know, like, I'm not going to say most guys. A lot of guys who have problems with women, do you know why they have problems with women? Because they don't know how to fucking talk to women. Because they're so hung up on this, like, I need to be masculine, I need to be a man, I need to take care of the women, I need to be the masculine role model that my dad told me that I need to be, I need to do all of these things. And they don't actually know how to do any of this stuff. Because every time they try to be that masculine man, every time they try to take care of the women, women turn around and inform them that, hey, I don't need you to be that anymore. Women don't need men to be this version anymore. Update, goddammit. You're running Windows Vista, bitch. Update. We're on Windows 11 now. I'm on Windows 10. But we're on Windows 11 right now. Catch the fuck up. Women have made so much goddamn progress over the last 40 to 50 years in terms of their place in the society, and men, unfortunately, have decided that we're just going to stay the exact fucking same, that we're just going to not at all accommodate or acclimate to the new what's the word I'm looking for? Relationship between men and women. That we're just gonna, I remember like 20 years ago, it was magical somehow when we told guys, hey, guys, fellas, you need to be a little bit more sensitive. Maybe, maybe like talk to women a little bit more, maybe express your emotions. And that was a big debate 20 years ago. Where like, should men show their emotions? Shouldn't we stamp down those emotions? We need to make sure that no. God damn it. Go talk to women. Go talk to if you're a younger guy, go talk to your mom. Go talk to your mom's friends. Go interact with adult women and understand how they actually fucking live in this society. Stop living in the past and start acclimating to the goddamn present. And there's so many guys, there's so many older guys that want to sell you this future that is never going to come. Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Ollie London, all of these guys get paid from older guys than them to sell you on something that's never coming back. You aren't getting you're not gonna live Mad Men. I'm sorry, it's not coming back. So either A, you buck up and you fucking understand the world you live in and adjust, or B, you can continue to maul. But like these are your options. Adapt or fucking perish. God damn it. Typical. Yeah, like, because again, like you're chasing the past and it's not gonna happen. You can throw out all of the sure you have. Oh yeah, that insult, you really got me there, Sensible Center, by the way. You can throw out like all the little data points. Oh, more men are having sex less. Yeah. Because more men don't know how to approach women, don't know how to interact with women. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You keep trying to insert, you keep trying to rebuild this patriarchal format. It ain't gonna happen. Women aren't going back. So you might as well get used to it. You might as well learn to understand women as equals. And if you're sitting here and you're thinking like, I don't know how to be a man unless, I'm the breadwinner, unless I'm taking care of the women. I was always told that's what I'm supposed to, that's what I'm here for. Guess what? You've been freed. You're no longer here for that purpose. Be you. Do the things that you like. Be the person that you want to be without these restrictions. You don't have these fucking chains on you anymore. Fucking run, jump, enjoy life. Stop trying to chain yourself and other people down because you think it's going to make you happier. It ain't.
pregnant Barbie and that. So I think it's kind of teaching kids, you know, or teaching young girls you don't need a man in life, and you know it's essential for starting a family, right, and growing. So
and I think guys are seeing that and thinking like, I'm not needed. If they're telling girls they don't need men and I'm a man, that means I'm not going to be needed. Why am I even here?
I have no purpose. Yeah.
And that's why we don't see.
Yeah, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. They're doing the like, oh, you don't have a purpose. No, you have. Guess what? Guess what? You now get to choose your purpose. Take this. Take this. Like people look at this like, oh, men don't have a. No, you now get to choose. You have a right to choose your goddamn purpose. Do it for your betterment.
Strong, solid relationships anymore, or marriages. You know, a lot of marriages failing, or you know, people just hooking up on apps like Tinder or Bumble because they don't see the purpose of it. You know, everything is so fast in modern society. You just go on an app, you find someone.
I love the idea that like people are yearning for relationships, but like this guy gets on and is like, oh yeah, people don't value them. No, they do. They don't know how to operate in a lot of them. And not only that, operating in relationships in 2023 isn't the same as it was when we were all younger. We all grew up with like a certain conception of how dating and like being in relationships is like, and it's just so much different now. It's so much different now.
Someone new, so they don't build that connection, which I think is really sad.
I grew up with like 10 things I hate about you.
And
like
your
those
dating
kinds
pool
of
was like
movies.
who you
and
knew
it's so
and who you were
different
around. Now, even when you're like married or you're in a fully committed family relationship, if you go to check your notifications, you see.
Oh, dude, that's like yeah, and like that would be like the whole stay-at-home dad, Mr. Mom sort of thing. That would be looked down upon in like you know, when I was growing up. That was like you weren't being a man. Like you would get criticized for that. But if that's the format for your life that fits, then who the fuck is somebody like Sensible Center to come in here and tell you that like that's wrong, or any of these other fucking yodels out here? Like it's just what people need is the freedom to choose their lifestyle and their format for their lives, and like centering our society, our economy especially, around accommodating all of those people through like affordable housing, through affordable childcare, through all of these things, wages actually increasing for once. That's how we actually get to a better community, not towards going back to, you know, men being men or whatever this nonsense is.
Women's faces, like the faces of hundreds of different women. It's just such an erotic mess. It's not natural stimulation. At least it wasn't up to this. Now maybe we have to start considering it.
He's kind of right
artificial,
about this, to a degree.
But it may be coming part of our nature. But it is counterintuitive to the marriage like monogamy structure. That's something else this divorce attorney was talking about too. Jeez, it's a weird. But I mean, if we don't have kids, then the human race will not proceed.
And this is why.
And do you want to know why? Do you want to know why they always bring it back to this like, oh my God, society is crumbling? No, it's not. No, it's not. Go over to India, go over to China, go over to the rest of the world. Humanity is fine. We are doing fine. The world is not crumbling because we aren't having enough kids. The world is crumbling because we're fucking destroying the goddamn planet. And not only that, what kind of world? Think about this for a minute. They live under a conception that we need more people to be born so that they can what? Join the exact same fucking routine that the rest of us have? I said it earlier. What do people do these days? They wake up, they go to work, they come home, they play video games. Somebody steals your data while you're doing that. You go to sleep, you do that over again. Your life doesn't really move. It just gets commodified. Every interaction you have on the internet gets commodified. It's why we've all been pushed onto the internet so much. So all of our data, all of our activity, everything we think about, everything we Google, all of it can be commodified and sold to somebody up at the top who can then sell it to somebody else and make some money off of it or bet on it or anything else, right? And like their world conception, or at the very least the world that they want more people to be in, is that world. They want more people to enter into that social contract. Why the fuck would anybody want to bring kids into that world? I've talked to a few other like people in my age range, and also a few like Gen Zers, and none of them want to have kids because they don't want to bring them into this. They don't want to have kids and then watch them enter into the go to work, come home, play video games, go to work, come home, play. They don't want them in that cycle. So how do we change it? We don't change it through just having more kids. We don't change it through women just kind of accepting old style, the traditional masculine man again. We have it through labor organizing. We have it through readjusting how we organize our societies. We've lived under capitalism for so long, and what it's gotten us at the end of it is a vicious cycle. We need to, and this is where I'm kind of joking because it's not this simple. We need to choose socialism. That's what we need. We need to choose socialism. We need to choose a economic and societal format that centers people's passion and people's creativity and people's collectivism, not just around people's competitive nature and greed, greed is good and everything else. Because that's what we have right now. And like, again, I'm being very flippant, like we can just flip the switch on socialism, but we as a species made a choice hundreds of years ago to move on from feudalism, to move on from slavery. We can do that again. We just need, I think, the drive, and we need the people behind us to say, this isn't working for us. This whole format just isn't working for us. We need something different, something that centers people more than it does centering money and everything else. Anyway, I've ranted for a really long time. Let's finish this up. I know I said that before.
Young men are skewing conservative. It's why young men are fans of Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, because you've got finally they're being talked to. They're being explained their value. They're being explained their.
And this is the thing. They're out competing us. China's out competing us in the
and the left.
Don't be confused by them calling it by the CCP.
Who tweeted something like, the reason young men are becoming conservative is because the right is talking to them. We need to do this. And the response from all these leftists was, oh, boo-hoo, poor men, shut up, spare me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting here laughing, being like, just keep on ragging, just keep on hating. And more guys are going to be like, screw you, I'm leaving.
At first, I was hurt by
Yeah. And do you notice what the difference is here? Do you notice that leftists, I just went on a pretty big rant about men and being like, hey, you need to grow the fuck up. You need to learn. You need to talk to more people, talk to more women, all the rest of the stuff that I said, right? But what is Tim Pool's answer? Tim Pool's answer is to just tell you the thing that you want to hear. If you're a guy out there and you go to Tim Pool or you look to Tim Pool for some kind of advice as being a man, understand he's not going to give you anything you don't already know. He's going to tell you all the things that you already think in the shower, all the things that you stay up late staring at the ceiling thinking about. He's not going to give you answers that you haven't already thought of yourself. And guess what? His answers are going to work just as well as they worked for you when you thought of them. That is to say, they don't. Like, guys out there, it's tough. I'm not saying it's not tough. It's tough being a guy out there. It's tough being everybody out there. The best thing you can do, if you're a guy, you want to meet women, you want to be more successful in the dating pool, the best thing you can do, talk to more women. And I'm not saying talk, if you're 15, 16, 17, if you're in that high school age range, I'm not talking about talk to the girls in your class. Talk to your mom, talk to your aunts, talk to if you have friends who have moms, talk to them. Understand and learn and educate yourself, really educate yourself on communicating with adult women. You will understand far better after communicating with adult women how to approach women than you will trying to, holla at, whatever girl is in your 5th period class. I've been out of high school so long. I don't know what school's like these days, but educate yourself a little bit. Interrogate that.
A girl, I blamed her. It was my fault, a lot of it, when in my 20s. So I was happy to watch this division proceed in 2011, 12, 13. I'm like, good. She deserves it. All women deserve it. I was so angry. But it's like a snowball. It's
called living on
avalanche
spite.
Going down a hill. Once it gets started, it's gone out of control now. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we can grains of sand and kind of slow the thing down because it's not a literal avalanche, but it feels like this momentum of divisiveness between men and women has been picking up steam, and that's concerning. Of course, it's shit can get changed really
well,
fast.
I would think
with internet.
movies like Barbie are sort of accelerating this, right?
Oh,
They're
you-
saying men are to blame, and that's
I don't know. I
in fact
thought
right.
Barbie was making fun of women.
I've never seen it, so
Yeah, I
I
haven't seen
can't
it either.
comment.
Look at this dipshit. Hasn't even seen it. Ugh.
I mean, I'm sorry. I thought it was more mocking men. It was basically teaching women, don't settle down with a man. You don't want to get married. And there was 2 scenes where there was a pregnant Barbie, and Will Ferrell was the CEO of Mattel, and basically they were mocking the pregnant Barbie like she was a discarded model. So it was teaching, young girls, don't have babies. And there was a scene at the start.
Yeah, the joke was that was shitty behavior on Mattel's part. We're
You might
moving
have seen
on.
it in the trailer where these kids were on the beach and they had these baby dolls. They were looking after them. Barbie came along. Suddenly they smashed them. So I thought that was almost a subliminal message telling kids.
I love how much
babies
Greta
or,
Gerwig knew
because
how these people would
it's not what we want
misunderstand
in
her,
society
her
anymore, so-
filmmaking.
I mean, I didn't see it, but
Oh my god, did nobody see this fucking movie and yet I had to hear about it? You fucking idiots. You fucking morons. All right, yeah, that's what I thought. Go see Barbie. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's very open about its politics, but it's also very critical of patriarchies and matriarchies, which I really liked. I really liked how it didn't give credence to either and kind of lampooned the patriarchal societies through a critique of matriarchal societies, and kind of showing, I think, how neither of them are really preferable for either parties.
My view from the trailers and the commentary that I have seen is that if the default,
we're moving on. Okay, no, this is actually the end.
She was good.
Okay, yeah, yeah. We're moving on simply for the fact that none of them have seen them. All I've seen so far is Ryan Gosling memes. It's a good movie. Like, Ryan Gosling's wonderful in it. It's very, very good. But people have been trying to make it into this anti-man movie, when it's really not. Like, it's really not. Like, if you observe it without trying to constantly misinterpret it, which Ben Shapiro did like a whole video about it, I wouldn't recommend watching it. But it's a good movie. It's also fun. It's not like the deepest movie in the world. It's got some stuff to say, but like you can probably just enjoy it for the movie that it is, without a lot of the extra stuff. All the politics and everything else. But oh, hello, Misa. Hello, boy. Okay, go do whatever it is you're gonna do. Okay, that's actually gonna do it for me today. I'm actually 13 minutes over. Nice. Okay, all right. We'll be back. So this week, 1:30 is seeming to be the time that I'll be going live this week. Monday. Well, today's Monday. Tuesday and Thursday. That'll be both those days. Otherwise, I'm trying to think. Do I have any other news? Oh yeah. I mean, I'll do the usual thing that creators do, where they go like, "Hey, if you enjoyed anything that you saw, you should totally hit the follow and subscribe button on Twitch or YouTube, because it really helps out the channel and stuff." I really don't like doing the calls to action. Are really awkward to me. But either way, I'll be back tomorrow, 1:30 Mountain Time. Maybe with Miso, who knows? Okay, are you gonna move on? You're just gonna lay here. Okay, cool. Nope, you're gonna move on. Are you jumping down or are you not jumping down? Okay, thank you. Either way, that's it for me today. Everyone have a nice day. I'll see you all tomorrow. Good back and forth, everyone, by the way. Well done. Everyone did a great job today. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. you